Can we have all the trustees to the dais? Can you please? Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum?
Madam President, you have a quorum.
We'll call the Board of Trustees meeting to order for the date of January 23rd. And we will begin, if we could have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Trustee Withrow.
Trustee Weinstein.
Here.
Student Trustee Moore.
Present.
Trustee Handy. Trustee Riley.
Present.
Trustee Withrow.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan.
Present.
Student Trustee Hollis.
Present.
Trustee Bonilla. And Trustee Brown.
Present. The next item on the agenda is the report of action taken in closed session, and that will be given by Trustee Handy.
At tonight's closed session, the board voted to ratify the appointment of the following public employee contracts, which is subject to contractual agreement by the chancellor. Recommendation to appoint Amy Marshall as Director of College Facilities and Operations, Laney College, effective January 24th, 2018 through June 30th, 2020 at $124,655 annually. Ayes 6, noes 1, abstentions, no abstentions. And that was the no was Trustee Yuan. Recommendations to appoint Martin de Mucha Flores as Associate Dean of Educational Success, Berkeley City College, grant funded, effective January 29th, 2018 through June 30th, 2020 at $101,991 annually. Ayes 6, noes 1, Trustee Yuan again, no abstentions. Recommendation to reassign Royal Roberts, Risk and Safety Programs Manager, to Employee Relations and Diversity Programs to support the areas of employee relations and diversity programs, effective February 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2018 at $124,655 annually. Ayes 6, noes 1, that was Trustee Yuan, no abstentions. Recommendation to reassign Venice Metcalf, Interim Director for Human Resources, to the Employee Relations Office on a part-time basis to support the areas of employee relations, effective February 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2018 at a salary of $147,319 annually. Ayes 6, noes 1. Trustee Ewan, abstentions none. Recommendation to reassign Chanel Whitaker to the Human Resource Office to support the areas of human resources and personnel management effective February 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2018, at $169,984 annually. 6 ayes, 1 no. Trustee Ewan, no abstentions. Recommendation to appoint Deborah Jones as Interim Associate Vice Chancellor of Workforce Development and Continuing Education District Office, effective February 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018, at $164,318 annually. Ayes 6, noes 1. Trustee Ewan, no abstentions. If any of these individuals are present, please stand so that we can welcome you into your new position. Madam President, that concludes the closed session readout for tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Handy. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, item 3.4.
So moved.
So it's been moved and second, and it's open for discussion. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
Madam President, I would like to move to action and discussion the following items. Item 6.5, and this is the independent contracting agreement with Sharon Cornu. Item 8.6, this is a transfer of funds from an IT project. Looks like a realignment thing. Item 10.1, which is a ratification of a construction agreement at Laney College. Item 10.2, which is a another Laney College amendment on leak remediation. Item 10.3, which is an amendment to the Cone Elevator contract. And item 11.1, depending on what we get from our report on that, I may want to have us consider that separately. So if we can just move it now into action, I would appreciate that. It's already in action? Okay, thank you, my mistake.
Madam Clerk, do you have those items? Does anyone else have any other items that they'd like to move to action for discussion? So we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda with these, and I'll amend that to make that a motion to approve the agenda with the items that are moved to action. Oh, student trustee.
Yes, I don't know if this is the place to bring this up, but item 6.2, I just wanted to bring attention to, I guess, a typo for Julina Bonilla. Like, there's no location for where she's going on the travel location. You see on.
So, let's see. Oh, travel location. Oh, I see. You're saying it doesn't have the conference name.
Yes, yes. It's obvious, but I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, so what we can do is move to accept the agenda with the clarification to be given regarding the location. And Trustee Bonilla, could you give that in your trustee report?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda with the items that have been moved to action. We've been asked to call the question. We'll take a vote now. Madam Clerk, do you need a roll call, or can we do that by?
No, we need a roll call.
Oh, yes, we do. Okay.
Trustee Weinstein?
Aye.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Yes. Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Trustee Riley?
Yes.
And Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you, motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We've been moved.
Second.
And second. If we could take a moment to review the minutes. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the Associated Student Government Reports.
17, 18. We say 17, 18?
Okay, there we go. Much better. Hello, everyone. I recognize a few faces up here, but for those that do not know me, my name is Marcus Stewart, and last semester I was recently elected as the student body president of Berkeley City College, and so today I'm going to give you, thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you. And so today I'm going to give you a brief report. Last semester, because of the sudden transition between presidents, it was a bit of a slower semester for our student body, but this semester we've made it a goal for us to really hit the ground running. And one of the goals that we really want at Berkeley City College is to have the student body and the clubs and the actual whole body of the school to be more integrated. And so we're working on multiple things, including new platforms to release videos of what the students are doing at the clubs. But as far as an update for report, it's not too much because I'm only reporting what's happened in January. But we do have a sudden spike in international students, which is really nice. And that's about it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Aisha Jordan. I am the student advocate for the Associated Students of Laney College. And I'm here to give a report on the end of November and December, and I'll give a report on January at the next meeting. So the Associated Students of Laney College had 2 victories at our General Assembly, which is Fall GA in November. We had 2 resolutions that were written, one the active listening resolution and the foundations resolution, and they both passed and are now resolutions. Active listening is a resolution which I'm the author of. It is for formerly incarcerated and systems impacted students to receive the services that the Peralta District gives to all of its colleges through resource centers like ROC and Street Scholars to be tailored to the colleges, the 113 or 14 colleges throughout the state, to be modeled after something similar like we're doing here at Peralta. And then the other one is the active listening resolution, and that was co-authored by myself and Trustee Corey Hollis. And it's called Active Listening, and it's about microaggressions and biased behavior and practices and how we can educate everyone on that. Going forward, there was a town hall meeting, and also there was a feeding, like a Thanksgiving feeding that was put on by the students at Laney College. As well as the first and third Tuesday of every month, we have the food bank come so that we can kind of bridge the gap with some of the food barriers that some of our students are faced with. In December, we had a victory because of our wonderful board who voted no on the A's stadium, and so we're so thankful for that. The Associated Students supported no on the A's stadium. We had a students' grievance workshop, and then we had an end-of-the-year barbecue for students where we fed over 700 students and faculty. And also during our winter break, we had a leadership training where we had 2 gentlemen come out from Boston, Massachusetts to help with training the leadership on how we can engage students, get more student engagement and involvement, because we all know that at all of the colleges that we're faced with student involvement in a lot of our different departments. As far as like ICC, we have great ICC and student government, but our students being able to come out and participate because they have busy lives. The other thing is we had the renegotiation of our contract with the canteen for the Student Center for the vending machines. So thank you so much and have a great evening.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Myla Trong. I am a senator at College of Alameda, and I want to apologize. Apologize for ASCOA board for not being able to come to the meeting last semester. It was a bit of a transition for us because we're getting a new student activities director and also a ASCOA president. But we were continuing to recruit new senators and continuing to develop our leadership by continuous trainings from time management and public speaking and attending leadership retreats. And also last semester, we continued to build school spirit and stronger sense of community by planning events like Welcome Week events and Spirit Week and faculty, staff, and student appreciation. Also, we continue to create events to celebrate the school's diversity. Last semester, we did Hispanic Heritage Month, and in the works for this semester, we're working on Black History Month. And also, we promote giving back to the community by holding blood drives and donation drives for disasters like the Santa Rosa fires and Hurricane Harvey. And also, we hold a free produce market for the community. And lastly, we continue to promote professional and educational growth by building achievement programs like MESA, which is Math, Engineering, Science Achievement Program. And also, we hold continuous workshops that from interview skills, CalFresh, TAP, and TAG, and resources for dreamers. And we plan to continue these practices in this next spring. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Milan Williams, and I am a student at Merritt College, and my major is communications. I am a senator on ASMC, and here is our report. The week of Welcome at Merritt is underway. The first week of classes, ASMC will be tabling to assist new and returning students with questions they may have, direct them to their classes, and just welcome them back to Merritt for spring 2018. ASMC will host events and have food for our students each day during WOW. Monday was a recap of sandwiches. Tuesday was Taco Tuesday. Wednesday was pizza. And Thursday is barbecue. Earlier today, 106 and KMEL was on Merritt's campus spinning hip-hop and R&B music, which got our students and staff into the WOW spirit. Merritt will host its first annual homecoming basketball and double-hander on Wednesday, January 24th. On men's tip-off is 5:30, and Lady T-Birds play at 7:30 p.m. in the Thunderdome. There will be a homecoming dance on Friday, January 26th from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. in the Merritt Student Lounge. Everyone is invited to this year's homecoming game on the January 24th. And for the first time, Merritt students will partner with De Anza College students and other community college students at this year's CA Campus Camp from February 1st through the 3rd. In the Santa Cruz Mountains. Merritt will celebrate its second Lunar New Year event on Tuesday, February 6th at 12:30 p.m. in the Student Lounge. There will be lion dancers, Chinese orchestra, and Asian-themed food. The students are happy that we have a new furniture. The new furniture adds color and brightens up the cafeteria area. Much is happening at Merritt, so please check out our website for up-to-date information. Our webpage is merritt.edu. Thanks for supporting all the students who attend Merritt and other 3 colleges. When students succeed, we all succeed. Thank you for listening, and this concludes the ASMC report from Merritt College.
The next item on the agenda is the public comment, and that'll be handled by Trustee Handy.
Yes. Okay, I'll take the first one. She just stepped out. Jennifer Sinowski, come forth, please. Did someone yield time to you?
Yeah, I have 2 people who
Who
yielded
are
time
they?
to me. That's Jeff Sinceri and Blake Johnson.
Okay, gotcha. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good evening. and welcome back to you all. I hope you enjoyed the break and come here tonight with renewed energy to tackle the many issues that we have in front of us. I'd like to start my comments tonight by thanking all of you for the work that you do on behalf of the Peralta community. I know that the PFT generally, and I specifically, have been putting a lot of pressure on all of you. And please know that I engage with all of you with respect and in the spirit of shared concern for our students and, of course, the faculty that serve those students. On that note, I'd like to discuss various interesting topics that appear on tonight's agenda. First, we have another interim appointment on the agenda. After almost 2 years with interim Associate Vice Chancellor Melvinia King serving as the head of workforce development, the district is appointing her replacement, another interim Associate Vice Chancellor. This appointment is in violation of AP 7123, as I've pointed out many times, which limits interim appointments to 1 year, and Title V, which limits those appointments to 2 years. Has there not been time to advertise for this position since it first came to the board on May 10th, 2016? Also reviewed in closed session is an evaluation of the chancellor. Neither I nor the DAS president were asked to provide feedback for this evaluation. And without faculty evaluation, I wonder how feedback can be considered comprehensive. Further, what's the goal of the evaluation, considering that the chancellor's contract has already been renewed to 2020? Later tonight, the chancellor is recommending that Sharon Cornu receive another $50,000 contract. Having been brought in as an intermediary for the Oakland A's stadium project, is this another sign that the deal is not actually dead? Faculty, staff, students, and community members continue to ask you all for a clear, concise statement affirming that no stadium will be built on Peralta land. And what precisely do we need to hire Ms. Cornu for in the absence of such a stadium deal? 2 action items appear on tonight's agenda: approval of a revised faculty facilities master plan and the financial audit. The revised facilities master plan, first presented to all of you at the board retreat in November, will cost, according to the plan sent out to all of us, almost $1 billion. The plans and their accompanying photographs look great, but one has to question the rationale for putting together a plan that requires funds that we do not have, and without any clear plan that we will get those funds. Will this be another project that ends up half done with corners cut and substantial in a substandard final result? The audit report being presented brings up more questions than it answers, namely, what is the balance of the reserves, and does the balance include student receivables? According to the audit report, there's a repeated concern, namely, that the oversight and monitoring controls over the asset and liability accounts in the closing process appear not to have been adhered to. With the ever-revolving door of CFOs, faculty concerns need to be listened to and acted upon. We need all of you to provide the oversight and clarity on what has happened before, where we are now, and how we plan to move forward together as a team. A couple of weeks ago, I sent you all a document outlining concerns that faculty have regarding the use of parcel tax money. In this document, we talk about the 50% law, which is in place to ensure that funding is correctly directed towards instruction. The parcel tax was passed in order to ensure that courses would not be cut at a time when state funding was being slashed. From our analyses, it looks like the parcel tax is not being used for instruction, but is instead shoring up the increased administrative costs coming out of Fund 1 so that compliance with the 50% law remains intact. While I understand that district-employed auditors have indicated that everything's fine with parcel tax expenditures, I worked on the campaign that got that money passed, the parcel tax passed, and the spirit of the language is not being followed. At CCSF, there's a website that shows all the classes that are being funded with parcel tax funds. They all have enrollments that are less than 20 students. Can Peralta show anything similar? What classes are we keeping this year using those parcel tax monies? How is the money helping students, and why should we support any continuation of those funds if it's not? Here tonight, you will see some of the folks that the parcel tax money was supposed to support. These are our part-time faculty. Almost 70% of Peralta faculty are part-time. They teach for less than our full-timers do, as you'll hear. with fewer benefits and no long-term assurances of employment. The lack of parity between part and full-time faculty is not just about hourly wages. It's also affecting our office hour compensation and involvement in campus life. The PFT challenges our administration and our district to take the lead in the Bay 10 and provide full and true parity to all faculty. Thank you.
Am I good to go? 2 minutes on the clock? All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Balukshian. I'm a part-time biology instructor at Merit and the rep for the PFT part-time faculty. I'm also here with your faculty. The people here behind me, not all of them are going to speak, but these are the people teaching our students, representing our 700 part-time faculty in the district, took the time to come out and be with us tonight. And I tried to get more, but the reality is, guess who teaches almost all the evening classes? Part-time faculty, so they often cannot come to the board meeting. I want to talk particularly about this word equity, which is a word we throw around a lot in the district and has a lot of different contexts. But I want to talk about it tonight in the specific context of our faculty and our part-time faculty. Following my remarks, we're going to have a little theater from 3 of my part-time colleagues to get this point across, which will also back up what I've given you guys as a handout so you can actually read in detail what we're talking about when we talk about this equity or this parity problem. And I also want to be really clear, this is not, we're not here to vilify anyone personally. This is vilifying the policy, a policy that is just not right. It's just not sound financially, it's not good for our students, it's not good for our faculty. And it is our belief, after looking at our financials, that we can find a way to work with the chancellor and work with the administration to sit down and make this a reality in our next contract, which we're starting early. We're not even in negotiations now, but we're saying, in next fall, you guys are the ones that approve or don't approve contracts that we bargain. And so what we'd like, the big ask here is really simple. It's for you guys to urge the administration to have a contract that includes full pay parity for part-time faculty. Let me just quickly explain what I mean by the lack of parity. A full-timer works a 40-hour week. 30 of those hours are for instruction, including grading and prep. 5 hours are for things like writing letters of recommendation and going to committees and doing college service, things that part-timers don't get paid for at all. Now, I'm going to go home tonight and write a letter of recommendation for one of my students who's the first one in his family to go to college, family of refugees from Afghanistan, applying for a PhD now.
Okay, half a minute.
And I'm not getting paid anything to do that. I could tell my student, well, I'm a part-time faculty member not being paid anything, but of course I'm not going to turn him away. So the point is, when you actually look at what part-timers are paid per hour versus what full-timers are paid per hour, we are paid less at every salary step and column of the schedule. We are paid 81.5 to 97.5% of what a full-timer makes to do the exact same work.
Group coming up?
No, I'm just holding this.
Oh, you're just on it? Okay.
I'm going to speak for a bit.
You Michael Bobbitt?
I am, Michelle.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry. Good evening, trustees. My name is Michelle Bobat. I've been a part-time faculty member at BCC for 11 years in multimedia. And I am apparently on step 12, column E, which means that I make 92.1% of what a full-time faculty member makes. Our classes in multimedia are about 3 hours, and so if we take that percentage, between 13 to 15 minutes per class is teaching for free, or inequally. And so over the semester, right, times that number of the week, and all of a sudden, we're talking about real money. Some of you, of course, I live in Oakland, have lived here for many, many years. And Oakland is popular, right? Like, it took a long time, but it's popular. And that has upsides and downsides. The downsides, I can see my students grappling with. They have to work many jobs, and it's making harder for them to come to classes, and they are trying their best. We are trying our best, but we really feel that we need your support, right? Yes. As I'm speaking, someone will give me the axe at 92.1, well, maybe not the 1%, but of the time, because, you know, apparently even after being for all 11 years, I make it into, you know, when you get the review, I'm told I'm a good teacher, but I'm apparently not worth it in some ways. And the longer I teach, the larger the disparity.
You're done.
And I'm done.
How much time do I get? Like the rest of it? Okay, good evening, trustees. Pardon?
Hold on. Linda Thompson?
Linda Thompson. You
Okay.
know who I am?
Yeah, well,
Why you ask?
But I'm supposed to, that's why. Thank you.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Linda Thompson, and I've been at Peralta for 23 years. Half of that time was at Laney College up until 2004 when I transitioned over to the College of Alameda. I've been there since 2004. I work in the Department of Kinesiology and in athletics. Thank you for giving me the time and the opportunity this evening to speak tonight. I am paid at the step 19 and column 2, which means that I only make 85.4% as that of a full-timer with the same exact experience and qualifications. That means that in a 75-minute class, I am teaching the last 11 minutes of every class for free. You see this dollar bill right here? For every dollar that one of my equivalent full-timers colleague makes per hour, I only get 85%. That's on the faculty level, and now I'm going to talk about the coaching level. Every female sport is underpaid than that of any male athletic sport that wears a helmet. I am below every male coach salary or stipend, I should say. I spend at least 20 hours a week extra free time in dealing with my student athletes. To give you an example, yesterday morning, I was here at 10 o'clock on the first day of school to assist my student athletes in making sure that they're registered for classes. This goes on every day, 5 days a week, and I only work 10 hours to 12 hours per week. Therefore, I'm on campus almost 40 hours a week, okay? And I think that I should be compensated more or just as much as my full-time and as my coaches who coach sports with whose kids wear the helmets. When I say that, I'm probably 50% lower than any male sport coach gets. And that goes for my assistant coaches also. They are underpaid as that of a sport that wears a helmet. So hopefully we get not only the faculty portion of it up to par as a full-timer, but we get our female sport coaches up to par as the male sport coaches. Thank you for the evening.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Sue Altenbach? Is it Sue Altenbach?
Good evening. My name is Sue Altenbach, and I have been at the College of Alameda for 40 years. And I will tell you why this is my first time here. I'm honored to be here. I have worked Tuesday night as a part-timer for 40 years. The reason that I'm here tonight is that my class was cut on January 16th. This is one of the things that we have to tolerate is the early cuts, and they don't think too much about part-timers. 20% of the salary is gone. I'm on step 25, and I'm on column 1. So this means for this long time that I've been here, I'm making 82% of what the full-timer would make. Another thing that is very evident with most part-timers is they're working at more than one place. So it's very hard to be on committees, to participate in a school as you should. So I urge you to consider this equity. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment, unless we have any, oh, we have a few more.
Next, we have Scott Gerbert.
Sorry, I was unfamiliar with the process, and I didn't want to step in line because I felt like the information they were sharing was important, and I didn't want to get in their way. My name is Scott Gerbert, and I'm here tonight to say thank you. I am the chair for the Alameda County Tobacco Control Coalition, and I'm here to say thank you tonight for your support and your letters of support that we've had as we've passed some recent tobacco retailer licensing. I don't know if you're all familiar with the recent passage in Oakland of the tobacco retailer licensing regarding flavored tobacco products, including menthol. I have to tell you, as someone who was sitting in the room when that passed, there aren't many times in your life when you're sitting in a room and you go, this was monumental, this was huge, this was way bigger than me. And this was an example where I was sitting in that room, and when it unanimously passed the retailer licensing, banning flavored tobacco sales, it was huge. So I want to thank you. Your letters of support have been an amazing asset as we go in and talk with different communities. Alameda is currently looking at theirs. They've asked staff to review it. And I do want to say that effective July 1st, 2018, is when the policy will be in place in Oakland. And right now, on January 16th, Alameda moved theirs forward. I do have to say that your letters of support are incredibly powerful. And the young people who come and present at these city council meetings are so eloquent, and many of them have come through this system. So I just wanted to be here tonight to say thank you on behalf of the Tobacco Control Coalition and on behalf of the thousands of people whose lives will be bettered by not having to deal with tobacco-related death and illness. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your work.
The next, we have Sheila White and Anthony White.
Good evening, Board. I'm Sheila White. I'm yielding my time to Anthony White.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, trustees, other dignitaries. My name is Anthony White. I work with Stanley Security, better known as Stanley Black & Decker, a Fortune 200 company. First of all, I want to take the time to thank the part-time teachers. I don't feel as challenged after hearing their stories. I hope things can be better for them. Basically, I'm here to state that basically for 2.2 million reasons, and which translates into dollars into a bid that I currently have a protest with, where we were not allowed to bid on a job. So I've got some money for those folks if we can all partner and work together. What this is specifically regarding is Dr. Acaro's 1213 Notice of Intent to Award an RFP number 17-1806 for emergency blue phone project for Laney College and Merritt Colleges. Currently, great risk and liability exists because those phones haven't been working for some for years, others I imagine several years. So imagine our students at these universities, or excuse me, these colleges, without the emergency phones that they need. Something just needs to be done about that. In my opinion, it would be a great mistake to move forward with this letter of intent with a company by the name of OHO Technology, a local company, as I would like to, for you folks to consider all the evidence. Number one, during Dr. Acaro's investigation of my bid evidence. Number one, no Peralta employee, no non-Peralta employees were asked for statements with exceptions of the alleged bid winner and myself. Number two, Bid documents did not give a specific location, only an address and purchasing department. No room number or conference room name, didn't even state the lobby. Employee Lassiter, Peralta employee Lassiter helped me to try to locate Mr. Hebert, who's the buyer. She informed him that I was there prior to 2 p.m. deadline. Mr. Hebert ignored her, just dismissed her, and would not accept our bid. Our $2.2 million less bid, OHO Technology, $3.8 million, rounding off to the 100,000th, and ours at $1.6 million, should have been accepted. Cameras, I supplied my car number, license plate number, I supplied my time, the door I arrived in, and asked for video evidence to validate my timely approach in the building. I've asked for this numerous times. As an electronic security professional for over 20 years, the question wasn't even addressed in terms of the video. I ask again, where is the video? Please show the video. It will timestamp me here on a timely basis and save these teachers $2.2 million. Basically, number 4, I asked that our $2.2 million less bid be accepted. Once again, cameras can confirm my time and time to locate Mr. Hebert, the buyer. Make a long story short, Ms. Lancaster, a Peralta employee, walked me through the facility, and the facility that has cameras right outside here showed me. First, she called Mr. Hebert. He didn't answer the phone, so she walked, trying to help me, to where his office was, because this was my first time providing a bid to your college. She very nicely walked me over through the warehouse. We entered through an access-controlled area. We stopped at Mr. Hebert's office. I was there at 1:59, 1 minute prior to the bid, standing outside his office with the door open, the light turned off, his name tag outside. Now later on, there'll be if you read my notes in the statement that's been provided, you'll see that Ms. Lancaster attempts to recall, but then goes back on her statement. I feel that she's been pressured, to be quite honest with you, simply by the way I saw him shut her down in the meeting when she said I was there timely. Lastly, I can describe his office, never even being in the building. His name tag being on the left side of the entry door, but so-called not being shown. The light dim. The desk centered slightly just off to the right as you approach. So I'm a little upset and frustrated because I just thought this would be so simple. Check the video. But there's some politics or other things going on that have frustrated me. Lastly, I want to reconsider awarding the bid to our company. Why would you pay $3.8 million when you can pay $1.6 million because we were alleged late and we simply were not? We need the processes going forward need to include exact locations on bid process documents. See my package, 3rd page from the end. In conclusion, we ask that you consider our $2.2 million less timely bid. Lastly, is there any reason why the video cannot be provided? It's not been shown to us to validate the timeline. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes public comment. The next item on the agenda is the Chancellor's report.
Yeah, I'll go.
First of all, I would like to welcome Vice Chancellor Romania Johnson to her first meeting of the board. We want to welcome you to Peralta, and thank you for joining us. Tonight we're going to hear a presentation by Dr. Karras, President of College of Alameda, on student success, but most importantly, the integrated plans that our 4 colleges are working on. Tim?
All right. Good evening, everyone. So I'm just briefly going to mention something that's on your consent calendar tonight. It's 7.2. Tonight, we're really at a milestone. Wow, this is a really funny microphone. Sorry. Lots of feedback. We're at a really important milestone in our state and in all of our colleges about student success. Tonight at 7.2, you will all hopefully approve on consent an integrated plan for basic skills, SSSP, and equity. And in the past, those have all been 3 separate plans for all of our colleges. And this is really a method of bringing all those student success initiatives all together where we can leverage monies, leverage our work, leverage everything we do to help move our students forward for completion and achievement. So I think with these plans going forward to our state, and they'll go to the state at the end of this month, we'll be able to harness data much better and goals for all 3 initiatives and be able to share student success, I think it'll be successes, and data and milestones to you in presentations in the future. And I think that's the real benefit of leveraging all 3 streams of revenue that's come to us over time, to leveraging them all together into one plan with common goals to move our students forward and get them to complete and help them achieve their goals. So we really look forward to, in the future, bringing that to you. And I know all the colleges had really robust and meaningful and mindful processes to get these plans to you. At COA, our Vice President of Student Services, Dr. Vasconcelos, was our lead. And we had intense meetings on Fridays to get these plans to you. And so we're really looking forward to sharing our successes with you in coming months once we can get some data to show you all the good work that all of our colleagues, faculty, staff are doing together to help inform our students and help them complete.
Thank you, Dr. Karras. I don't know if you have questions for.
So, Dr. Karras, I like saying that.
Thank you. I like hearing it.
So the student success, does this have to do with the multiple measures, or, I mean, what?
So multiple measures will impact that because with 705, of course, coming through and really changing how we do placement and assessment at all of our colleges, that will be embedded, I think, in all of our plans because that'll help, of course, accelerate our students through the basic skills work. So like the pillar of basic skills will be, I think, quite impacted through 705 and placement. And then SSSP, which was formerly, way back in the day, matriculation, being funded within that, and then all of our equity plans being all merged together into one integrated plan to the state. It has up to 5 or so goals in the plans, but there are integrated plans saying, okay, for each of these, they're all looking at the same student through different prisms. So hopefully by laying them all over, we can actually be much more mindful in helping the students through. So yes, so multiple measures is clearly going to revolutionize, I think, how we do clearly placement and then help our students accelerate either through basic skills or just get them through transfer, which they deserve many times right away out of high school. Yeah.
So you're talking about really a braided type of program where you're using the existing mechanisms and you're wrapping them so that the students have all the support they need and it's student specific.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Trustee Weinstein.
Thank you. Dr. Karras, thank you. And I want to say this is the best thing I read all night, all day. It is like, it's the most important issues I think that our colleges and our students are facing. So I was so pleased to read how you put these things together, and I really want to thank you. Some of the issues which are just so timely, like remediation issues, like equity issues, like how these things, transfer degree issues, associate transfer degree issues, how these things all come together is like the meat of these colleges. And so I want to thank you for doing it, and I want to recommend, and I've told this to the Chancellor, I hope that you do a much larger presentation at another time because I really appreciate it, and I think it's good for all of us to know what's actually going on. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. And I think really it was the hard work of faculty, staff, and the administrators assigned to it. They did just such hard work on this, and I think it'll make it much easier to come to you in the future with an integrated presentation that doesn't seem so fragmented at times. So many times student success and achievement data it's kind of presented in a way that it's its own little animal, which doesn't feel alive. And I think these plans, having it together, will make the data come alive through our student experiences. So I think we'll be able to share in the future once these come together and we can start really measuring, because they're all data-informed goals, that we can
Right.
share something much more meaningful to you.
And I think it's very helpful to have the research people. I want to thank them for doing this work and data management, because they really take a leadership position in this, and of course the faculty as well. But it just all makes much more sense now, and I think we have a way to work forward. So again, thank you.
I want to recognize all 4 presidents for the work that they have done, and Dr. Weinstein, you'll be hearing from all of them as we go ahead during the year. So thank you also for recognizing the quality work that the colleges have done, especially with this particular plan. This time I would like to ask Vice Chancellor Brown to share with the board briefly a grant for mental health that we intend to apply for.
Good evening, trustees. There is a grant from the state office that is requesting applications, and it's for a mental health services grant. And the announcement for this grant came out on December 28th, which was an unfortunate timing because we were all away. And by the time everyone came back and our new VPSSs came on board, it was too late to add to the agenda. But this is a grant for $350,000 per district to address the mental health gaps and need of our students. And they'll award 14 of these in the state. And the vice presidents of student services, the director of health services, as well as other personnel in the mental health areas here in the district are wanting to submit this grant. It's due February 1st. The grant will allow us to increase our baseline information regarding the number of students and how they're served, et cetera, increase the number of students who are screened for mental health services, increase the number of students who are referred for off-campus mental health services, increase intervention and prevention training for faculty and staff, and also do a lot of training around stigma reduction. And as a faculty for 18 years full-time, I can say, I could tell story after story of the students who came to me about wanting to kill themselves, feeling depressed, high anxiety, domestic violence, sexual assault survival, and being a historian, lacking the real skills needed for that. And so there's a team ready. They wanted me to tell you all that last year there was a survey of our mental health services on campus, and 1,400 students were a part of that. And one of the students in the survey said, "Thank you for helping me not commit suicide." There's a high level, up to 20% of the students reporting high levels of anxiety and having a difficult time managing stress with workloads and all the other family pressures. Depression as well, up to 11% of our students experiencing that. And this year we're seeing unprecedented numbers in the mental health services at our 4 colleges, largely due to the ongoing stressors that they experience, but also the state of the nation and the fact that the majority of students who are coming for mental health are students of color and underserved populations, and the political climate is impacting that as well. And so we are hoping to apply for this grant. I wanted you to know that we have mental health services, but they're highly impacted. This fall, each college reported to us that they had wait lists of students that were 10 to 20 students, and students had to wait sometimes for up to 30 days in order to receive the mental health counseling that they needed. The demand is so high that the mental health counselors have to, obviously assess the risks of the students, and they take those who are suicidal or homicidal immediately, but they have to have other students wait. And so this grant would be very significant for us in trying to expand the services, create more partnerships with mental health organizations, and we're hoping that we can get the support from the board to apply for this due date, given the lateness of the announcement.
We're not asking the board to do anything at this time. This is just for your awareness that we're going to do that.
Thank you, Chancellor. I just wanted, yes, a point of clarification. It's not a board voting item. Otherwise, we
No.
could not have had it. It would have had to be agendized, but you're letting us know what the work of the district is. And generally, the board does not have to approve an application for a grant, because hopefully everyone's busy writing grants, and we wouldn't want to have to wait for board approval before that was done. So thank you for the informational report. We greatly
Okay.
appreciate the work.
All right, thank you.
And this concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Chancellor. The next item on the agenda is Board of Trustees reports, and we will start with Trustee Bonilla.
Oh, great, thank you. So, VC Brown, thank you so much for providing us with the details of this RFA on community mental health. I'm really excited that that you all are deciding to apply for this. There's been a lot of work done, especially in workforce development, around trauma-informed care and how there are just different triggers that present barriers that are not seen in the workplace and for those who are seeking employment. And we know that that translates to all segments of the population that we work with, especially here in the community college. So I applaud you and kind of the health team taking the initiative to pursue this grant. I also want to address Trustee Hollis's request on clarification of the trip that is assigned in one of the authorized travel forms. That trip is to Houston, Texas, I believe, is where we're flying to. Where are we going? Dallas, Texas. There you go. Okay. Dallas, Texas. And it is a PC3 conference, and that stands for Public-Private Partnership Conference and Expo. And this is really a conference that I am excited to go to, as it's meant for higher education institutions, government, and industry to meet in order to discuss the parameters and framework for what strategies are implemented for successful procurements around P3 partnerships, public-private partnerships. Really talks about the nuts and bolts of how these transactions work and how to mitigate and manage risk associated with these kind of new and legal and financial models. You'll hear more about this when we return from that conference. I also want to say Happy New Year to everyone. This is, I believe, our first meeting since we've come back from a very long break. So Happy New Year, everyone. I really appreciated listening to the Associated Student Government reports, always full of information. I love hearing about the work that you're doing on top of your academic commitments, so I applaud you in that work. And I believe that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bonilla. Trustee Hollis.
Good evening, board, administration, faculty, public. I don't have much to report except for the fact that we'll be having our PSC meeting this January 31st. And I will say that I have more to speak on that in the next meeting in February. What comes out of that and some more things coming down the line from things I pick up from the students. Thank you.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan.
Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. In particular, thank you to the people who worked really hard over the break to get ready for the students who came this week. And that was, folks who worked in the district, in offices and so forth, and then obviously all of the faculty members who were doing prep and that kind of work. It's exciting to always start a new semester. So thank you very much. The only thing I want to mention is that I was pleased and honored to march at the Women's March this past weekend and caucus with the good folks from the Peralta Federation of Teachers and the Berkeley Federation of Teachers who met at the PFT office across the way. It was a spirited and much needed march. And those of you who came out across the country, whether you were in San Francisco or whether you were in Oakland or San Jose, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Let us hope this year is better than last.
Trustee Weinstein.
Thank you. Let me say a few things. First of all, thank you to the part-time faculty and the faculty members for sharing with us what's really interesting, and for us to make sure that we learn about the issues of equity in part-time faculty members. So I want to thank the faculty members and the hard work that you do, the students as well. I want to thank Dr. Brown for the work, and hopefully the grant. I hope she gets the grant, because we are absolutely in need of this grant. And for somebody who's been in the mental health world for over 30 years, things haven't changed, but they've gotten worse. So I know that we need this at our campuses, and so I really wish you good luck in being able to get that grant. It's very important. I have stayed involved with tried to stay involved with the Berkeley City Immigration Task Force to try to figure out what's going on and to try to understand and be protected in terms of what this outrageous president is doing in terms of making our people feel unsafe and trying to protect immigrants and our friends from El Salvador. So this issue affects public education, and so I'm glad that Peralta is staying on top of that, because we're in a very difficult position, and particularly in Peralta, because we have so many dreamers and so many people who are undocumented. So that is an important part of my agenda. I spent a long time studying our budget, and I will continue to study our budget because it's hard to understand, but I think it's hugely important in how we move forward. And I did have an opportunity to meet with some faculty members and some constituents, and it's an honor for me to do that, because that's how I find out what's going on, on the ground. And it's important for trustees to do that, at least I think so. So I want to thank everybody. I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year and for a better year. Thank you.
Trustee Moore.
Good evening. Tonight's skipped, catered dinner is in solidarity with students who don't feel the peace of mind to leave their cars in the parking lot. We have a lot of break-ins, reported, unreported, people just paranoid that, maybe it's not paranoid, they're very justified in worrying about their vehicle being left. We have a lot of security cameras that don't work. In fact, one of the sheriff's deputies admitted to me that less than 50% of our cameras actually work. Maybe that's the reason why our member of the public couldn't get the footage he requested. I know myself personally, I've written multiple times in the Laney Tower, which is our district-wide publication, about the blue phones and how they're not working. This has been years in the making. I have myself requested that contract. The maintenance for that blue phone system is left up to the company as long as the district notifies the company, but apparently that hasn't happened for a number of years. I also had an experience first day of class where the entire facility was locked. It's been locked all day. The same facility where I requested the handicap door be fixed, it still has not been fixed. And like I said, the entire building was locked. It's been locked all day, which raised the question, why hasn't that been changed? I mean, how can you go through the day as an instructor, as a student, and not just make a phone call to get the doors unlocked? It's absurd. But it raises a lot of issues about how our facilities maintenance requests made, how do we get things fixed? And I think there's a culture here where people just kind of work around it. Like that building I was trying to get into to get to class today, there are little door jams in the door. Instead of making a phone call, someone propped it open with a brick. And that's unacceptable. But that's the mentality here. We have a lot of things that are broken, and people try to work around it. They accept it. And yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. So I'm looking forward to helping make things better. Put some white, what is it called? White papers? Yeah, some white papers into action. And hope to get back to you next meeting. Thank you.
Trustee Handy.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. Happy New Year, Happy New You, as we say. I usually pretend that the month of December doesn't exist. It's like I go home and I stay home, and it's about family and grandkids and all of that. And it's very peaceful. I think maybe you'll call it a staycation. So coming back into the real world has been a bit of a shock. Starting first activities with Martin Luther King Freedom Breakfast held on Monday at the Hilton, where numerous city and civic leaders were acknowledged, and including Arnold Perkins. I'm sorry, this is getting a little small here. Congresswoman Barbara Lee was there, of course, Kat Brooks, Leela Motley. There were so many people there, and it was great because you saw most of our city leaders coming into that march and into that event, and then jumping in their cars and running to the next event, which fortunately for me was next door, and that was the second annual Martin Luther King Jr. Multicultural Rally, where we had students from all over Oakland that were there to present their speeches, and also had students from the Freedom Center that were there also to present. And they were not able to identify the person who was going to be the recipient of the scholarship award because of some little red tape something, but it was great. You had families, you had community members. I ran into someone I went to high school with in Oakland, Consuelo Naval, and that was just pretty amazing when you're staying in the same neighborhood. So that was a great way actually to spend Martin Luther King Day. And then also just want to say that on the 26th through the 29th, some of us will be back in Sacramento for the legislative conference of CCLC. And let's see, I think that's about covers it. Our next conference will be a couple of weeks later, but that's about it. So we will be meeting with our different representatives in Sacramento, and again, just trying to bring home the money. Thank you.
Trustee Riley.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I just wanted to share that I had maybe opportunity is the wrong word, but Phyllis M. Jones, who passed, they had her services last Thursday. She joined Peralta family in the late 60s and worked until the 2000s, and she was quite a character and a loyal employee, and we miss her. We want to remember her family. And also on next Thursday, May the 1st.
Not May. Next Thursday, January. February 1st.
Well, next Thursday at Merritt College, and the Martin Luther King Center will be hosting Congressman Jim Clyburn. And that, did you have that in your report? Do you want to share that? Yeah. May I ask the president if she could share that with us? Chancellor, thank you.
Great, that'd be great.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, I would love to.
And that time is, the time? Oh, go ahead.
The time is Thursday, February 1st, 7 p.m., and the Merritt College Gymnasium. And it's James Clyburn, U.S. Representative, South Carolina's 6th District. So I'll make sure you all get a flyer. And it's part of the Barbara Lee and L.U. Harris lecture series.
Thank you.
Right, and Merritt College.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Riley. For
The chair, I'd like to make one more quick comment. As I was reading
Please
through
do.
documents, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I'm just looking at the president's bulletins that were put in front of us, and I couldn't help notice that at BCC, under the president's bulletin, President Tomeneg, you have President's Innovation Mini Grant Awards. And I noticed that the first one is building resilience, creating a trauma-informed college. So it just struck me that as we were talking about some of this, can you talk a little bit about that and what it is? I'm just really interested to learn a little bit more. Thank you.
Okay, so that mini grant award, it's actually building on the work that's been happening with our mental health counselor, Janine Greer. And she's been working with several of the faculty who are the faculty teaching some of our Persist FYE Learning Communities programs. So they've come to find in that work that many of the students are dealing with trauma, you know, and it enters the classroom. So they've been trying to figure out different ways to increase professional development for the rest of the faculty and staff, and that's what the mini grant is about. So it's education focused on professional development for the rest of the campus.
Thank you for that. And do we see this playing a role or some serving as maybe some foundation or some sort of collaboration between the grant that we are looking to apply for and the work that's currently being done?
Yeah, I believe so. BCC really has a really phenomenal mental health counselor, and their VPSS is also really skilled and experienced in this area. And so when we all come together tomorrow to put the grant together, it's all 4 colleges, including 2 of the mental health counselors. And so that's part of what the conversation will be in writing this grant. It's not individual, but it's how we can share resources. $350,000 is a lot, but when you divide it by 4 colleges, it's a bigger impact when we pool our desired services together.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, thank you. And for my trustees report, I would like to just say again, Happy New Year and Happy Lunar New Year to our Peralta community, our students and our faculty, our staff, and our administration. Mr. Timothy Bryce was unable to make it today. He said he did not have a classified Senate report, but I just wanted to let everyone know that he did email us and let us know that he was unable to make it today. And we very much appreciate the service that Mr. Bryce gives us and the contributions to the community from the faculty, the classified Senate, and of course our faculty Senate. With regard to our trustee reports, they generally give us an opportunity to talk about our community involvement. And I just wanted to mention with regard to the January 9th preliminary injunction issued by the Ninth Circuit with respect to the rescission of DACA. That is something that I was able to use my Martin Luther King Day actually to work on. I sometimes, yeah, I actually, instead of going to the activities, I'll just work on something that's a community project and do my volunteer work that way. And so I'll share that with our administration so that some updates can be provided with regard to how the preliminary injunction affects the community. Actually, what it does is it returns the status of DACA back to the September 5th before the rescission of DACA with regard to existing DACA people that are have existing protection under DACA. And so because of the issues that we have in this community, a very diverse community, I think it's important for us to stay on top of those issues and share the information that we have, because it's traumatic for all of us to see the members of our community suffering anxiety and suffering trauma and having their families impacted. And I think we can all help each other by staying on top of the information, and we have skills that can do legal analysis. I'm happy, we should provide those. Whatever we have that we could give, you give that. What is that called? The giving soup or whatever? Also, I was actually unable to make the Women's March because I was doing a training for educators and administrators of color out of town. And so I was there for the first one, but this time I'd already booked another event. And so I was actually in San Diego doing that training for an organization. Actually, it's K-12 that there were administrators that were wanting to get more people cultural sensitivity in education to provide support for our students that very much need it. And then on this Saturday, right before I go to our legislative conference, I will have the honor of providing a training, again, pro bono work. So that's, if you guys see me like riding a bicycle or driving my old car, this is why. It's the pro bono work. I'll be doing a training for the Association of State Democratic Party Chairs. So that would be all of the chairs from all of the 50 states will be convening at a conference, and this time they've put sexual harassment on the ticket, on the slate of things that they're learning. So I'm happy to report that hopefully we won't lose, we won't be investing and voting and getting people elected that are going to turn around and do something that embarrasses us all. And so that's part of what's being integrated now into the political system, learning to respect each other, treat each other respectfully, and uphold our laws with regard to sexual harassment. So that is what I have to offer, and that concludes our Board of Trustee reports, and now we go to the Peralta. Well, we don't have the Peralta Classified Senate report. Mr. Bryce has been unable to make it, so we'll go to the. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention was that there has been a call for greater clarity and greater explanation with regard to issues that are of concern district-wide, and so we're going to endeavor to provide reports that will be available, that will be updates that we provide to you, and those would be called something, we're not sure what it's going to be called, but that's something we're going to be providing to you. It might be called board report, it might be called district update or board update, but that's something we want to do to help provide clarity and have a place where anybody could go on the Peralta website and get additional information. If there's a matter that they have a particular concern about, we'll try and provide those things to you. So that concludes my report, and now we will have the District Academic Senate report. Mr. Smith.
Happy New Year, Madam President, and our trustees of the Peralta Community College District. And welcome to everyone, all of our public who are watching online or here present. I would like to begin by thanking Trustee Riley for recalling the life of our colleague Phyllis Jones, and also wanted to acknowledge another retired Peralta faculty member who died recently, John Steiner, who worked for many years at the College of Alameda. I would also like to begin by expressing a lot of gratitude for the staff, administration, and faculty, but specifically the staff and administration at Laney College, who went over and above the call of duty to ensure a really successful Flex Day. The staff, specifically I'm thinking about William Highsmith and Amy Marshall, Kanetta Jones, and others who just made things go really smoothly. And I think the faculty and staff and our administrators saw the results of a successful day. Continuing the expression of gratitude, I would like to also thank on behalf of the District Academic Senate, our Information Technology Office, specifically thanking them for the work to make it possible for our faculty, staff, and students, especially our students, to be able to go in online and put in their preferred names. We have a lot of students who are vulnerable, and in this accomplishment, though it was very difficult, and it did, in a lot of ways, I'm sure, divert the focus and the attention of our IT staff away from some critical work that they were on top of. But nonetheless, it has been incredibly well received by the faculty and students. And in class yesterday, being able to make that announcement about this opportunity for students. On one hand, it really, I think, opened the eyes for a lot of our students about the challenges of some of their classmates, and it gave a great deal of relief for other students who did not have to out themselves in ways, in a condition where they were uncomfortable doing so. And then also for another expression of thanks for Peralta Portal. And now faculty and staff have the ability to have a single sign-in to get to some of the applications that they most use. And going forward, I would say that, and before I go forward, the list of possible expressions of gratitude go much farther than those, but those are the ones that I would just wanted to highlight tonight. We can tangibly talk about the new administrative positions that have been created in the last few years. We can talk with certainty about some of the new offices that have been opened in the past few years. We can talk about the new systems and applications that we have taken on in the past couple of years. But I am challenged, and I wanted to repeat the challenge of our PFT president, Shinosky, challenged to be able to identify the classroom offerings and or support that we have gained from Measure B in the past few years. I take seriously the request that folks in the community don't air the dirt of the district without the full story. So I repeat that I am challenged, I say challenged, not to say that, things are any particular way, but I am challenged to name the offerings and support and ask on behalf of the DAS that the full story be brought before the board and made public so that we can all have the clarity and potentially celebrate our adherence, not just to the language of the partial tax measure, but most urgently to the spirit of the measure. I look forward to the work ahead, to achieving concrete results, to the abstract and general conversations that we have held for months. And I don't want my frustrations to be taken or interpreted as defeated nor cynical. My colleagues and I are anything but defeated, and our students can't afford us to be cynical. Nonetheless, I do also feel that it would almost, I would almost be a buffoon to stand before you, to sit before you, and not name the urgency and not speak to the urgency of these issues. And I say buffoon intentionally because growing up as a kid in Mississippi, it was, one of the things that I heard frequently was, like the ABC. And my parents were like, you're not going to only be an athlete, a buffoon, or a criminal. And I am taking that into my 40s, and I take seriously, this idea of speaking to you cordially and collegially without necessarily naming the urgency of the issue at hand. But when I look around the room, I am encouraged. I am literally encouraged when I look around this room at the people that I have to work with, the administrators, our college presidents, our faculty, our classified senate. I'm encouraged and emboldened to believe that that the faith that I have in our ability to do this work is sound and is founded. And I look forward to that work that needs to be done, and I think that it can be done. But the time is now for us to move beyond intent and into concrete action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. The next item on our agenda is presentations. And that would be the Facilities Master Plan presentation.
And I'd like to call on Director Kelly, Miss. Okay, so we have a team that will present to you, including the president.
Oops. Thank you so much for having us present to you this evening. What we have before you is the incorporation of the comments, questions, and concerns that you all had from our last presentation of the facilities master plan. So tonight we are presenting to you our final draft based on conversations that we've had with you all, as well as with the college presidents and their staff that were active participants in this facilities master plan evaluation. So what you have before you is an inclusion of the needs assessment that we developed based on the Ed Master Plan that was discussed with the teams, and then the list of prioritized projects based on what each campus determined what their needs were moving forward. Steinberg is going to present to you, and I believe that you all were given a copy of the full master plan to review prior to coming this evening. So I would ask that you hold your questions based on that information we provided to you all until the very end. But I'm going to allow Sania to, with Steinberg Architects, to share with you all a very quick summary of the things that we have incorporated for you all to review.
Good evening. It's nice to be back. Thank you. So the first thing I wanted to provide you is I'm going to just go over the document that you all got, what was in the document, summarize what the key drivers are for the district needs, and then have a brief overview for each of the campuses on those priority projects. And I'm going to ask that the presidents just say a few words about each of the processes that the campuses used to arrive at the whole master plan. So with respect to the overall document, there are 5 plans, one for each college and a district-wide plan. The district-wide plan includes one of the chapters from each of the colleges, the most important chapter sort of summarizing the master plan, as well as the district sites, such as the site that we're on right now and 860 Alameda and so forth. So generally, the way it's organized is the executive summary is giving you an overview of the purpose of the plan, the process, and the key drivers of the plan. We then have in the district-wide, and this only occurs in the district-wide master plan, is the technology portion of the master plan. And we'll go into a little bit deeper into all the various aspects of the technology that were looked at and the guidelines and standards that were developed. Then, as I said, for each of the campuses, there is a chapter for Berkeley, College of Alameda, Laney, and Merritt. And within each of those chapters, you'll find a summary of their goals, their vision, and the process used to arrive at their master plan. And the 7th chapter is the district sites. Again, similar to the other campuses. And then the 8th chapter is summarizes just what the costs that were, the cost of the projects that were preliminary, and a sense of some of the implementation guidelines. What I want to emphasize is that the draft master plan is mostly about the first 7 chapters because it's a document that is state mandated, just like educational master plans. It's really about capturing what are your needs. And I know earlier we were asked, why develop a plan if there's no funding? Well, you need a plan to realize what you need to go after. So that whole aspect of that cost and implementation is obviously another topic that occurs after the master plan is complete. So the focus of this is really on the master plan. Yes. So to summarize the key drivers, the master plan is rooted in the 2016 Educational Master Plan. So the Educational Master Plan was refreshed in 2016, and all the needs are rooted in the 2016 Educational Master Plan. Some of the key things from those 2016 Educational Master Plans, and we heard earlier today, is the emphasis on student success, on transfer and completion. These all have various impacts on facilities. Another aspect is the need to really focus on the changing teaching pedagogies and 21st century teaching and learning, which is vastly different from what the facilities that were built 60 years ago look like. The educational master plan also identified the fact that 50% of the Peralta faculty and staff are within retirement age. So you've got to look at aspects of recruiting and retaining them. And also one of the main drivers for College of Alameda and Laney and Merritt and the district side as well is the condition of the existing facilities and infrastructure. Along with that, the needs arising out of the existing condition of technology on these sites, lack of library space on all of the college campuses, and last but not least, the lack of also lecture, labs, and office and library space at Berkeley City College to just accommodate their current demand, never mind their future demand. I think Jason will say just a quick word about the technology master plan component.
Thank you. Just wanted to, the technology portion of the facilities master plan covers the physical IT infrastructure for the district and the colleges, not the software or any services implementation. The plan calls for network and equipment refreshes on a rolling basis as recommended by industry best cost practices. And the plan also calls for ongoing vendor maintenance and support contracts to ensure we can provide services on a timely basis, as well as cloud infrastructure for all our workloads to improve our TCO and help manage risk. The plan also defines new classroom technology standards that are in line with the new smart classroom projects that we're rolling out, as well as envisioning where we could take that in the near future. The technology portion of the master plan also includes requests from DGS for physical security systems, including access controls, cameras, and emergency communications.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'm just going to briefly touch upon all the campus sites. So I'll start, they're all just alphabetized, not in any priority. And one of these days we'll go from Z to A as opposed to A to Z. But starting with Berkeley City College, everyone, do you want to just say a few words about the process, and then I'll...
So as Sunia mentioned, for BCC, the driver is really rooted in our educational master plan. And so the master plan that we revised in 2016 identified various needs for student support in the classroom, and then also in student services. So the lack of sufficient space, and then the demand for more classrooms, labs especially, our sciences are very popular, office space for the faculty, and library. We had a very robust shared governance process in terms of communicating out and seeking feedback to our community. We had several town halls, we had a survey, we had presentations at facilities committee and college roundtable, and we had separate meetings with various user groups.
Thank you. So the needs arising for Berkeley as a major driver is space. With the acquisition of the 2118 Millview Street project, the third floor is not being built out, so this plan calls for the build out of that third floor. The other needs are, as a result of the Millview Street project, there's some opportunity, not much, but there's some opportunity to reconfigure some of the programs within the existing building that are sort of bursting at their seams, but they've got nowhere to go because they're all landlocked. So the Millview Street projects enable some reconfigurations of the existing buildings to address some of the issues of that building, but ultimately BCC will need an additional facility and or land to accommodate more space, particularly class labs, which they are highly short of. And moving on to College of Alameda. Tim, I'll get you.
I'm back. All right. For College of Alameda, similar to, I think, all 4 colleges, is everything we're doing is rooted in our educational master plan, and then COA, as some of our other sites, have some challenges of aging facilities that don't really meet our current or definitely future teaching and learning needs of our students and faculty. And so in the fall semester, we kind of had 3 prongs similar. We had some college forums for a very wide-based informing of what we need to do in feedback. We went through our governance processes, so it went through things like our chairs, our college council, our facilities committee all gave feedback. Then also through our research office, we did a campus survey, because sometimes that's the most easiest way to get people's feedback, is they can just log on the computer, do a Survey Monkey, and give us some feedback to actually prioritize our different projects. And that yielded very good feedback, and we took that all together to inform the projects that we'd like to accomplish.
Great, thank you. So at College of Alameda, the priority projects is to, infrastructure is to replace all the major electrical equipment, upgrade and or replace the central heating hot water plant, depending on what gets determined there, and civil infrastructure replacements. And then from a facilities perspective, just continuing with the replacement of the C and D buildings, which will ultimately be demolished, and bringing science back onto the campus. So there is a science and administration building. The administration's moving out of another building so that veterans and other student support groups can move into where administration is right now and be co-located with other student services. The aviation complex is in need of replacement, given it's due to its condition. Automotive diesel complex is a replacement of 2 separate facilities into one, consolidating them and locating it in a part of the campus that is away from the rest of the campus with respect to noise and smell. Performing arts and modernize the Student Center Building F, along with technology projects. And then moving on to Lainey, I believe Stephen's gonna give us a brief summary of the process.
So I've asked Dr. Stephen Corlett, who is our chemistry faculty and the chair of the facilities committee, to give an update, and as well as he's the co-chair of the district facilities committee.
Thanks for the introduction. I wrote this down. I heard I only had about a minute, so I'll try to go fast. So I just wanted to say, to summarize, the process at Laney was through, really started with program reviews, annual program reviews. The facilities planning committee vets these, collates them, and prioritizes them for new facilities, buildings, functioning infrastructure over the course of many years. And so then master plan from 2016, goal 3 really states make all facilities clean, safe, functioning, well-equipped, and attractive. And that meets the task ahead for the facilities master plan. We had many online surveys at Laney for all stakeholders, students, faculty, staff, administrators, and they all clearly identified the highest priority areas. We held community forums. We had probably the record of the number of forums. We asked for 6 in the spring. We had 1 again in the fall to hear from all constituents on campus. They were geared into different groups to get all the input. And we had at least 3 facilities committee presentations by Sonia in various forms of the master plan. It was driven by infrastructure studies by WLC and also by Steinberg. Again, we really concluded the infrastructure remedies really must be included as an integral part of the plan, not just a desire, but had to be part of it. The real drivers, of course, again, the educational master plan, goal 3, clean, safe, functioning, well-equipped and attractive facilities. But really the aging, failing infrastructure is probably the biggest driver at Laney to update facilities to modern standards. And then I guess finally our priorities in buildings really came down to the top 3, where the Student Center, Library, Learning Resource Center, and the STEAM building for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, to replace our aging science labs. And also these 3 buildings offered us the ideal way to have swing space for all the other renovations. And so that's really our process. Thanks.
Yes, so he stole half of my thunder by saying the project. So yes, again, I'm not going to repeat them all. They're, again, infrastructure, electrical, central plant in particular, And then, as Stephen mentioned, a new student and welcome center, a new science STEAM building, the new library, of course, a new design and manufacturing center, a renovation of the existing theater and the music department for a performing arts, and a new community building with a campus green to tie the campus together. Then moving on to Merritt College.
Similarly, at Merritt College, our facilities master plan is driven by our educational master plan, our mission, vision, and core values. We did the same thing. We had forums in the spring. We had about 3 forums in the fall. We had a survey of 167 participants that were surveyed. That included, the majority of those were students, 45 students, 19 faculty, 18 staff, 2 administrators, 1 community member. And then we also, I personally took the master plan to the Academic Senate. I met with the Classified Senate President and the faculty co-chair of our Facilities Committee, and we reviewed everything. They actually made some prioritizations, and then it was taken to the Facilities Committee. So we had broad input and feedback to the college campus.
Thank you. So at Merritt College, again, there are some infrastructure replacements, electrical in particular, and then the replacement of Building A, the renovation of Building D, the renovation of Buildings E and F, which are kinesiology and fitness, in addition to that as well, facility, because the needs cannot just be accommodated in a renovation of those. A combined child care center and child development center, and then the horticulture complex replacement. There's also site improvements to provide an opportunity to get off the campus in more than one way to connect the roadways for evacuation, as well as a renovation of Building R. Those were the priority projects, again with technology. Every campus has technology updates. For the district sites, the process was a little bit different. We did have a campus survey and we did do a campus forum. But those did establish that the 2009 master plan, as encapsulated there, was pretty much still valid today. So all the previous master plans were sort of 2009, and things had changed quite drastically on the college campuses, but not for the district. In light of that, there wasn't any additional campus sort of forums held, but we did meet with some specific departments that had some changes. For example, international studies is one of them that has become decentralized and is now being housed on the college with just some main offices here at the district site. So we did capture all of that, and the main change from the 2009 master plan to today is that the 2009 master plan was proposing a consolidated district office on the Laney parking lot site, and the changes that really it can be located anywhere in the Peralta service zone. It did not need to be located there. The ideal was just that it's close to transportation, but anywhere in the 7 or 8 cities, I forget, that the Peralta serves would be fine. There's also a need for a workforce development and continuing education facility that is again been identified in all the master plans, and something that also is an initiative at the state level, at the the Chancellor's Office, with respect to a need for continuing professional development and folks returning to get additional certifications to rise up in their careers and so forth. So catering to those needs and to that growing population of the 24 to 34 age group. And last but not least is the Peralta Genomics Institute, with the science from College of Alameda moving back to the campus of Alameda, and the medical genomics component moving back to Merritt. The desire was to really take the existing genomics that is more focused on DNA sequencing and prep, and growing that into an institute where it's a rising field with a growing market, very skilled, and offers very good jobs to the folks who enter that field. So the idea is to renovate the balance of 860 Atlantic to make it a full-fledged genomics institute. That's all the projects as identified in the master plan, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to-
There's one more thing that I did want to make sure that we discussed as well when it talks about district sites. So part of our analysis was looking at what services are we providing at our district site, and what is the experience that people have when they come here to get service provided. So we are looking at also including many infrastructure upgrades and really servicing this particular service area so that as people come to the district office, they have a very pleasant experience. And then we also look at utilizing the space as a multi-use function site so that as we're having our board meetings, this is also the room that many of the large conferences take place, but then also this can become a space that other parts of the district can utilize for trainings and conferences and things like that. So that is something that we are vetting further and looking at incorporating as we move forward. The other thing that's very important, I know that everybody, had sticker shock about this particular bond. One of the things that we've been doing is looking at evaluating how we are actually going to be rolling this out if and when we go out for a bond measure. And I want you all to be aware that we are looking at a 20-year plan because, the size and need that we have is so tremendous that it can't be done in a very short period of time. So I want you all to understand we are going to continue discussions about that and, be in concert with the colleges to look at how we actually are going to do that moving forward.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Are there any questions?
Actually, we have Trustee Withrow and I have a question as well.
Okay.
Given that last and the presentation, which I appreciate, I appreciate the fact that you have pictures so we can visualize it and whatever. Do you have a rough estimate on what we're talking about here in terms of capital? The investment, financial investment, if we were to do all of the things that were put forth here?
Yes, so in that chapter 8 of the district-wide master plan, as I said, that does capture, it's a little bit shy of $1 billion for these priority projects. Just a little bit shy of $1 billion for these priority projects. But that is, again, as Kelly is mentioning, is something that the district can look at in terms of that was also looking at it in a 10-year period and can be refined further.
I think to bring more clarity to your question. So originally there was a estimate that was provided to you in the first draft that we gave you at the previous meeting.
Right.
That gave you, I believe it was a $1.9 billion price tag.
Right.
And that was based on looking at current conditions, escalation over 10 years, based on square footage cost and size of the facilities, and then prioritizing them based on what these presidents have stated is their priority. Excuse me. Since that time, we have gone through a variety of exercises looking at what really does that $1.9 billion buy us and what really can our constituent base really handle. And so we have come to the conclusion that that, of course, is a large number that is just far too large to bear. So in looking at understanding what the needs are, moving forward with a solid plan, we have now reduced that number, still keeping the projects in the same order, looking at the scope and making sure we meet all of our needs from the ed plan, but looking at where can we become skinny. We were now able to get it down below the $1 billion, and I believe it's around $959 million. Still, in 10 years, that's a lot of money for us to spend. Understanding our other school districts that are neighboring us have passed 950,
Right.
920, 912. I think the largest in the state is like 989. We, of course, are not intending to do that. So that's why we went ahead and looked at what does a 20-year plan look like and how do we roll it out so that we, one, increased capacity for our students to get the things that are needed based on what the colleges have said is required, and then what financially can we actually do to accomplish this? And so part of what we've also done is looking at how do we maintain and actually increase capacity in the existing structures that we have so that we're not really tearing everything down and building everything new. But what does it look to do retrofits? What does it look to do shared space with the city? What does it look to do shared space with other schools? You know, Oakland Unified, some of the private colleges and schools have also approached us about, hey, here's some partnership opportunities. So as we vet those and look at what our plan really looks like, we are going to see the number come down. And so, but we needed to have a starting point to know
Right.
this is actually what we really need based on where we are today. So it may be different 5 years from now, who knows? But knowing today, this is what we need to start from and then work backwards out of that number.
Okay, thank you very much. No, that makes sense. What I guess what I'm concerned about is going too low on the front end, okay? Coming from a finance guy, that's kind of an odd statement, but with our buildings aging in range from 50 to 60 years, and in 20 years, they're gonna be 70 to 80 years, and they weren't necessarily built very good to begin with. Are we gonna be behind the power curve all the way if we try and go for a $950 million bond?
I'm not comfortable in saying yes or no because we are still gathering our data and working with our
Okay.
consultants to develop those numbers. I can comfortably say that we will do whatever is in the best interest of our community at large so that they are not bearing an unhealthy burden to actually have us accomplish the things that we want to do.
Thank you.
And since we didn't bring it to mention bond at all, just what we really want to do is the planning. And then from there, we need to then see, what we can do as far as resources are concerned. But we did not restrict ourselves only to look at what can be funded through bonds, but rather what our global needs are. And then we need to step back and see how those needs can be accomplished.
Okay. Thank you.
So I have a quick question, and thank you very much for the report. This is a process and planning question. So we finally were able to get the Laney Library put on the Prop 51 bond, and so we're very happy about that. That was in our facilities master plan for maybe 15 years ago. We've been waiting a long time for that. So with the prioritization that is in this facilities master plan, is it articulated in a way that would fit the Prop 51 guidelines so that possibly we might get another project put on, and if so, which maybe well, never mind. I don't want to start, my college presidents like wrestling each other over which project would then go. I'm not going to ask that question. I'm wondering about the process and the flexibility of the way that the projects are listed. We're going to submit this to the State Chancellor's Office, I'm imagining, because the first step before you can go towards getting bond funding is you have to have a facilities master plan, and then you have to be able to submit that to the Board of Governors, and they have to consider it to be a project of need, and then they have to put your project on the list of projects that are going to get the Prop 51 funding. And so I'm wondering, are we prepared to do that, and are our projects classified so that the urgency of the need will be clear when we send that to the state to see if we could get additional funding from the state?
So I'll answer first part of the question. So the Laney Library is actually one of the top priorities for the Laney College.
Yes, second time around on Prop 51 too, so that was a lot of consternation on our part.
Right, so the thing is that the master plan supports the position being put forward on Prop 51, that it is the top priority, and then I don't know if you want to address anything else with respect to...
Yes, so what we have done in the district is we have both the Laney and the Mary College Child Development Program that are ready access program, meaning that the state will advance mobilization funding come July 1, and then we have the share for the district that we need to leverage that amount. Now, going forward from here, every college has an FPP that has been submitted to the Chancellor's office. And those FPP are going to compete with the rest of the state to determine how many points do we have. They use the age of the building, whether we're going to participate, 50%, to determine how many points we score. So the higher points that some of the FPP will score will determine how many more buildings are we going to have to benefit from the state funding.
My point, because our Laney Library was categorized in a way that we had to push even harder, and we missed the first round, and that's precisely my point. With the projects that we are articulating now in the master plan, that we're going to send to the Board of Governors so that they could be considered as part of the unmet need throughout the state, how are we categorizing those so that they have the best chance of being adopted by the Board of Governors as a project that will get funding priority?
We will relook at categorizing those buildings before June, because of our experience that we've had with Laney's situation. But some of them will come as modernization, new project, or emergency project. Depends on which building and which campus.
All right, I'll start lobbying the chancellor then after this meeting.
And I want to clarify that you're limited to one per campus. So you have a long list of projects, so not all of them would be able to be submitted in that process.
We'll take 4.
Yes, I understand. I just wanted to clarify for anyone who did not know that. So anyway, any other questions?
Trustee Hollis.
You hit my question.
So we have not categorized them yet. We were going to do that by June, so that means we have time to start belly crawling and begging, right?
We have submitted proposals with category, but we're going to review that because we have opportunity to be able to review that and determine what goes forward and what doesn't. All right.
And to just reiterate to Dr. Ikuhara, we actually have that meeting scheduled within the next 2 weeks based on you all's positive vote of accepting this master plan this evening to go ahead and do just those things.
Thank you. So thank you very much for that report. That concludes our facilities master plan report. And now are we to the consent agenda? Are we there? Are we there? All right, let me get it on my computer. This is. All right, so we just finished our presentation. Next thing is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Got to move, and Brenda, you get that? So we'll take a vote. We'll call any discussion? All right, we will then take a vote, and we will do we have to do a roll call, Natasha? All right, so we're going to do a roll call, and so we'll do those in favor of accepting.
Roll call.
Yeah, we gotta wait.
Why are we doing
We're gonna behave ourselves. It's January. It's the first meeting.
Trustee Weinstein? Yes. Trustee Handy? Yes. Trustee Withrow?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan? Yes. Trustee Bonilla? Yes. Trustee Riley?
Yes.
And Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, so we have passed our consent calendar, and now we are going to the action calendar. And we're going to do the action items that are listed on the action and the agenda first, and then we're going to do the ones that are moved to the agenda. The first item is 11.1, Annual District Audit Report presented by Interim Vice Chancellor Williams. Do we have a motion to accept this?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Now we could have discussion, or actually, any discussion on this, what we're going to have Vice Chancellor Williams present.
Hello, everyone. I have with me tonight VTD to co-partner with me on the presentation. So we'll get started with the audit presentation from Brandon Harrison. Brandon, if you'd like to.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm going to go over the 2016-2017 financial statement audit report. First thing I want to come to is we're going to go to page 2 of the audit report. I won't go through every page, but I'll give you a summary of the audit report. If you look at page 2, you'll see that this is the independent auditor's report. What we do as independent auditors is the financial statements are management's financial statements. What we do as independent auditors is we provide 3 opinions over the district. One is going to be the financial statement, one is going to be the federal compliance, and then one is going to be the state compliance. And I'll go through each one of the opinions. First opinion that you're going to see is on page 2. That is the district's opinion over our opinion over the financial statements, and you'll see that it was an unmodified opinion. Unmodified opinion is the best opinion you can receive. That means it's free of material misstatement. But it also means that there could be audit adjustments that were presented and prepared and approved and posted by management, and I'll go over those later on in the report. If you move on to the next page, you'll see that there was a restatement to the beginning fund balance. This was related to the student receivable balances. There was about a $4.8 million adjustment for writing off of the receivables, and then there was also an additional $1.5 million to set up an allowance of doubtful accounts for the receivables based off an annualized schedule that the district prepared. From there, I'm going to go to page 5 of the audit report. You'll see that this is called the management discussion and analysis. This is the summary information. This is basically taking the financial statements and putting it into summary information. It's going to give you some detailed perspectives. It's going to give you the financial highlights. It's going to give you some of the economic factors that are going to affect the future of the district as well. I tell everybody when you read an audit report, this is probably the first thing you want to see, because you're going to see some summary information. You're going to see management give you detailed perspective of not just numbers, but give you kind of some wording to go behind those numbers as well. From there, we'll move on to page 16. Page 16 is the statement of net position for the district. What this is full accrual financial statements. That means it's going to include the fixed assets of the district, so the capital assets, the buildings, your equipment. It's also going to include your long-term debt. The district operates on a fund level basis, which is normally throughout the year, but at the year end, they have to come to full accrual and present those financial statements to you. You'll see that the district's net position is a negative $19 million. That's primarily due to the long-term debt of the pension obligations, which is your STRS and PERS obligation, which is about $132 million, and then your OPEB liability, which is about $40 million. So that's kind of the thing that drives your net position down. From there, we're going to skip many, many pages and go to page 81. As I mentioned earlier, there were audit adjustments that were prepared that we found in our audit, and we posted them to management, and we prepared them for management, and management accepted and posted to the financial statements. And I wanted to go through some of those and go through the funds with you. The first one you're going to see is the general fund. The first line that you see on page 81 is going to be the balance that was reported in the district's 311 report. This is a quarterly report and then an annual report at the end that the district submits to you for approval and also to the state chancellor's office as well. That was the unaudited numbers. When we came in, we prepared our audit. We prepared some entries for the general fund. The first one you're going to see for the general fund was about $280,000. That was related to an entry being posted incorrectly twice. The next one is the bigger number, is going to see the accounts payable balance. About $9.7 million, we had an audit adjustment. This audit adjustment was about $8.1 million was related to incorrect benefit liability. This entry was posted backwards and incorrectly. $300,000 of that was related to the restricted fund, and the remaining was related to the unrestricted fund. About $1.5 million was related to other incorrect accruals that we had, and numbers for not clearing from the prior year as well. For the other remaining funds, you're going to see the parcel tax, the child development, the revenue bond, student bond center fund. Those are also related to the incorrect posting of the benefit liability accrual. The only other exception to that is the special reserve fund. That was about $5.7 million, where it was interfund borrowings, but it was only posted on one side. It wasn't posted in that account as well. So we had to prepare these entries. We provided to management, and management posted them in these financial statements, and the information and the numbers in the financial statements reflect these adjustments. From here, we're going to move on to page 96. Page 96 gives you a summary of the auditor's results. This is where I'm going to break out all the 3 different opinions that I spoke of earlier in the presentation. The first one you're going to see is going to be the financial statement one. As we went over, it's unmodified. There was a material weakness that we noted in the financial statements, and I'll go over that in just a second. No significant deficiencies or no material noncompliance. The federal awards that we issued was an unmodified opinion. There was no material weaknesses or no significant deficiencies over your federal compliance. We tested about 90% of your federal expenditures. That's primarily your student financial aid cluster. That's going to be your Pell grants, your FSEOG grants. We tested that. That was your major program. So that makes up about $33 million of the $37 million of your federal expenditures. The last one was the state awards. You guys did receive a qualified opinion. This was over the state general apportionment, and I'll go over that comment right on the next couple pages. On page 97, this is going to be your material weakness over your financial statement. This has to do with the accrual accounting. This relates to many other adjustments that we made. The accounts payable was incorrectly recorded. The prepaid expenditures I discussed as well. We also noted that the capital assets and the fixed assets were not reconciled in a timely manner, and those were the issues that warranted a material weakness over the financial statements. If you move 2 pages, you'll see that there was no federal awards, but on page 100, we also had a state compliance finding that was over the general funding apportionment system for contact hours. In our sample, we sampled 25 classes. We noted that there was 4 that was incorrect. So what we do is we go back to the district and say this is the error rate that we noted. The district went back and tested 100% and recalculated all the types of classes that we noted that there were errors in. It was about 14.13 credit FTS that were noted that the district had to restate their 320 report. That's kind of a quick synopsis of summary of the information of the audit report. I wanted to leave a lot of time open for some questions for you.
Trustee Withrow.
Just in a general sense, in reviewing it, we only had one item that was qualified,
Yes, that was the state compliance was the only
and that's the
qualified.
244 business.
Yes.
Okay. And the rest of it was not?
The rest of the financial statements were unmodified, was an unmodified opinion after the adjustments were posted.
Unmodified,
Yes, yes.
unqualified, whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Change the language to protect the innocent. I guess the reason for bringing that up, I think that the finance department and the colleges that participated in all of the thing are due kudos. To me, there are things here, but given the complexity of the operation, it looks to me like it was a pretty good bottom line. Would you agree with that?
Yes, after the adjustments were posted, management accepted it. It was basically primarily the one item that was caused the most entry was one entry that was posted incorrectly. That's
Right.
the big number, the backwards accrual for the benefit
Right.
liability. So other than that, there was much smaller items that were noted, but nothing that was major other than the backwards entry that was posted for the benefits.
I'm sure that the vice chancellor broke somebody's leg over that, but the one area that, and there are a whole lot of things we get into here where you're structuring it, but the one area on page 15, I think it is, where you talk about the FTES and the drop in FTES on a year-to-year basis, and it's showing that our FTES dropped close to 20% in the fiscal year 2017.
This is page 5.
Is it page 5?
Yeah, it's page
Okay.
5, just so everyone can see it.
And our records show, I believe, that it dropped, certainly significant, but something less than 10%. What is the difference there? Why is there such a disparity?
Yeah, let me, Brandon, if you don't mind.
Yes.
That's my voice over this way. So the difference is that we made a conscious decision as a district to make sure that we can have a higher level of FTES for the 2018 fiscal year. To keep about 1,800 FTES from last year, which is a process that we can certainly use so that we can reach a higher level of TS. If you were to put that amount back into the FTS for 16-17, then the decrease would be more like 9.5% as opposed to almost 20%. That's the difference.
It's a process that community colleges are able to borrow against a year in the back in arrears or moving forward knowing that you're going to borrow against in the future year. it's kind of complicated, but that's the reason why you're going to see the fluctuation on the FTES.
Chancellor, would you mind just restating what you said? I don't know that everybody followed it.
So for the current reporting of our FTS for the last budget year, 2016, 2017, we had earned about 17,000 FTS. But in order to maximize our budget for the current fiscal year, the rules allow us to use 2 summers to report our enrollment. Therefore, for the summer of 2017, we did not report our FTS for that. So that amount of about 1,800 FTS is missing from the 2016-2017 because we're going to count it toward 2018, 17-18. That's a difference.
I'm sorry.
Do you want to be recognized? Trustee Gonzalez, right?
Thank you.
And then Trustee Bonilla.
Yeah. So my understanding is we've actually been borrowing forward for years. And so this year we decided not to borrow forward. And we're going to...
Last year we did not borrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we had been, and so you're saying that in the last academic year, we said, all right, we're going to finally pay the piper, and we're going to put that summer into the coming year.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Bonilla.
Chancellor, just as a follow-up on that, and so even with the borrowing and truing up at different times, when you look at the percentage of decrease between all of the various years dating back to 2011, 2012, we see an average of 2% and 5%, 5.8.3% is the range that we're looking at. So how we went from a average of 2 to 6% to 19%, almost 20%, I'm still, it's still not resonating for me. I don't see where we're going to close that gap, even with the carry forward from borrowed summers before. So can you tell me where, do you have a number of where we're going to be at and what that percentage gap will eventually be?
So what we estimated that we want to be for the current fiscal year is at 19,500 FTS. So which is the reason why we didn't count last summer toward the current, the fiscal year that's being audited, but we put it toward the next one instead. It is true that statewide we are all experiencing low enrollment. 32 of our 72 districts are reporting low enrollment. And we are doing the best that we can because of many factors. And for many of us, there is the employment that has risen, as well as the lack of housing for students. So we have a number of factors that are really playing here. We have stepped up our recruitment and outreach efforts in order for us to achieve higher FTS. And our enrollment management efforts with the leadership of Vice Chancellor Brown are really stepping up to look at different ways and means that we can indeed increase the enrollment.
And through the chair, as a follow-up for that, thank you, Chancellor. As we move into and have been discussing enrollment management, especially in the 16-17 school year, I still am quite surprised that this is coming this is resonating at such a high degree of deficiency in terms of enrollment, given that we have employed an enrollment management strategy over the course of the past year, dedicating resources to that, but not actualizing this in terms of improved FTESs. And although I'm not looking for a response necessarily or a dialogue back and forth, I think it's just important to note as we continue to move forward that our enrollment management plan needs to be brought to the board more fully and developed so that we can actually align what we're seeing in the audit and how it is that the enrollment management plan is augmenting or where we're seeing challenges in that. And through the chair, I'd like to ask a couple more, just one more, well, at least one more question. In addition to this, and I do hear Trustee Withrow's kind of applauding of this report, I'm definitely reading this from a layman's perspective. I don't have a financial or audit background. But as I mentioned earlier to my colleagues, I went to the final pages of this document, which are where the findings are located. And I believe that goes from pages 100 to pages 14. And I focused on those material weaknesses and significant deficiencies and read through them and used that as a guide to allow me to go back through this very dense document to try to better understand it. And what I came away with is that we are lacking very seriously as a district internal controls, not only in finance and budget, but enrollment management, our ability to count FTESs. And I would implore the chancellor and his staff to take a serious look at this and provide these trustees with a comprehensive response to these findings in the very, very near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bonilla. Chancellor, did you want to speak to that?
We certainly want to pull together our recommendations. We know that one thing with audits, the first time something happens, they bring it to your attention and they give you an opportunity to fix it. If you don't fix it that first time, the second time they come back to you, they tell you that you didn't do it. So you have really a certain number of opportunities, which is not a lot, to really get to where you need to be. What we have had at the district, which we intend to reactivate, is a committee on audit with our staff and administrators and faculty. So we're going to be working together to make sure that we address all of those recommendations that are in the audit, and that we'll give you periodic progress on how we're doing on all of those, because we'd want for the next audit a year from now to say that we have complied with all of those recommendations.
Thank you, Chancellor. So we'll, do you need us to, thank you very much for the report. We greatly appreciate it.
I've had my,
Oh, okay,
President.
so we have Trustee Weinstein here.
Thank you.
And then, did you have your hand up, Nikki? Okay. And we want to try, and we're at 9:30, we want to try, or 9:19, and we still have a few more items that need discussion, so we want to try and just make these last two questions, and then we're going to try and move forward.
All right, thank you. One, I spent a considerable amount of time looking at the previous audit that we received. What was that for? The one that we received, I think in December or November or October?
Let me, it was, I sent you an early copy of the audit so that you would be familiar with the issues that we're dealing with as far as the entry that the auditor talked about.
But these numbers are different.
I can't speak to that, but in terms of what you received in December, it was as soon as it was ready. I wanted you to have a copy of it, so I sent that to you earlier.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I will say, agreeing with Jelena, or kind of doing the same thing. I work from the back, and I looked at the significant or the material weaknesses. And some of these have been going on for years. And some of the responses are not the best either. So, number one, there was a big mistake made. Isn't that correct? What?
Yeah, was that
Yes.
to me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The mistakes that were being made those are the audit adjustments that I went over.
Right. Okay. So why did that happen?
That would be management, I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't know who I'm supposed to be talking to. Well, we can both answer in these questions. Okay. But it was a mistake that was made in the finance department where an entry was posted wrong. And so it overstated our expenditures. Is it the numbers? Yes, it was one entry that caused the majority of the problem. So is it like they made the wrong number, or they actually figured it out incorrectly? No, it was posted wrong. It should have been posted as revenue, and it was posted as an expenditure. So it made us go. We were under budgeted. Okay, so so who checks the audits? Like, how did you know that it was incorrect?
That's when we come in, we look at your trial balance. So basically, the information that's provided in that 311, that backs that up is the trial balance. When we come in, we look at the different accounts. We look at the detail of the accounts. We do sampling. And when we came in, we noticed that the account went up very high from the prior year. So we inquired with it, and then management went back to go and reconcile that account to see exactly what it should have been instead of what it was presented. And then we prepared that, and we saw that the adjustment was about 8.1 for that entry.
So that's big.
It was big.
Yeah, that's big. So I guess I'm just worried about these types of mistakes, and I'm glad that you found them. I'm a little worried about the next audit. That seems like it's a long time away. Maybe there is some way to keep us posted earlier on in terms of the kinds of things you're taking a look at. But you know, that error, which I thank you for finding it, caused a lot of hardship, made people very anxious and worried about their jobs and all sorts of things. Now, I'm not here to blame anybody, but I am saying these numbers have meaning. And when we see the problems or the material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, we're taking them really seriously. Our fiduciary responsibility is very, very important. So I really want to encourage you to stay in touch with us and to try not to make those errors. Thank you, Trustee Weinstein.
I mean, you found it, but whoever made the errors.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen.
Thank you. I have to say I'm greatly relieved seeing these numbers rather than the numbers we saw in November and December. So in November and December, I think we were saying our ending balance was about $7.7 million, and now we're saying it's closer to $21.3 million. So that's better, to state the obvious. What I'm trying to understand is, in the budget for 2016-17, we had proposed to have an ending balance of $20.5 million, I think. I'm not certain about that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the proposed ending balance. And then we had this, where we had the student receivables audit finding, and the auditors said, this is out of control, you need to start writing some of this off. You're never getting this money, write it off. Was that part of our original budget plan to write off $6 million of $6.3 million of student receivables?
No, that was not.
Okay, so somewhere in there now, we had a proposed ending balance of $20.5 million. We're ending up with an ending balance of $21.3. So we increased our ending balance by $800,000 plus the $6.3 million that we wrote off. So we ended up underspending our budget by $7 million. And I'm wondering why did we underspend our budget so much? And does that have anything to do with enrollment management? So like, if we're underspending our budget dramatically, nobody was anticipating this, and it's a good thing we did underspend our budget because we ended up writing off so much money. But if we'd spent that money, and this is just a question, and I don't expect finance folks to necessarily answer this, but if we'd spent that money, would we have hit higher enrollment targets? Where did we underspend roughly $7 million? Does anybody, through the chair, as my
I
as
think
my colleague?
that I appreciate the question. As I see it from the 10,000-foot perspective, we're looking at our overall expenditures and planning, which I think is a good thing to do. And I know that that's not something that would be an answer for our finance people. So I appreciate your patience with us in answering these questions. And I think that that is the work that we have to do. The work that we have to do is the planning and the budget forecasting, and also the integral pieces of enrollment management, of our deferred maintenance with respect to our buildings, of our investment in our capital investments. So that's actually the seminal question, is how we're making our value judgments.
Is there a quick answer? Where did we underspend $7 million? Were there main categories, or was it just really spread out throughout the institution?
There's no quick answer.
Yeah, I don't think there's a quick. I think you've raised the question, Nikki, the question for the work to do.
And then coming back to the student receivables, so we've got another $6 million of outstanding student receivables that we're planning to write off over the next number of years. Thank you. That's perfect. And so those receivables are part of this $21.3 million in our ending balance. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then this is a question for the auditors. As my colleague, Trustee Weinstein, pointed out, the report that we had dramatically lost all this money caused quite a bit of concern. And I'm wondering, from an audit perspective, the fact that our finance team believed this, thought it true, probably double-checked numbers, et cetera, and then reported it widely on numerous occasions, is there something within our system that is a weakness that we need to attend to so that, in fact, the numbers that we're working with, in fact, are credible or reliable?
I think that comes through the finding that we have in the 2017-1 is the financial close process, because that's where it was, is at the end of the year. The end of the year accruals, it's controls that have to be in place, and when we come in and we see that they're not operating effectively, we note that, we put that in the audit report. So that's kind of the process that needs to be revamped, basically, or looked at to implement that finding. That would eliminate some of these problems and the concerns that you guys have.
Okay, but is it just a closing issue, or was there some other, like, an entry gets made, somehow there isn't a system in place that will catch that right away?
For this purposes, that caused the issue here was an accrual purpose. This was at the end of the year. This was the accrual accounting there. When they accrued for the accounts payable there, for the liability benefit, that was the incorrect posting. So that was the accrual side.
And it just showed up right at the very end then?
It showed up for us at the very end. So when we come in, we're not here throughout the year, so we come in about 3 to 4 times a year. So when we came in at the end of the year, it was noticed by us, and we presented it to management. The management went back and reconciled the account to verify that the information that they were going to present at the end was correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
I have
for
a
your
question.
report. We have one additional question from Trustee Moore, and actually I'd just like to ask you for the recommendations. If there are any additional recommendations that you could leave us with, we'd appreciate you leaving that with our Vice Chancellor of Finance, so that we can, when the committee that the Chancellor had mentioned convenes, we'll have additional material to work with in preparing those infrastructure strengthening, so that we will have this, so it will be a better set.
Yes, I can do
And
that.
Trustee Moore.
Okay, so recently I was working with a student who has recently returned to Peralta after leaving in the 70s when his parents died. He had to take care of family issues. And when he came back, he faced the challenge of outstanding fees. So my question is there a prioritization for whose fees get written off? Because in my opinion, it would make sense to support students who are trying to come back. So maybe those fees could be written off before people who aren't even trying to complete their education here. Is there any kind of prioritization for deciding whose fees get written off?
I believe the fees are written off because they're aged, we're not selecting who to pay for, but the college presidents each have emergency funds, or they have processes that they do to help students when it happens. But this was an accounting addressing aged fees. So if they get so old that it's difficult to collect them, that's when you write them off. It's an accounting process.
Right, well, this student was attending in the 70s when he dropped
So you're
out.
saying so you're saying he still had the fees, and you're
Yeah,
not
from
talking
the
about his
70s.
fees now, his
Yeah.
old fees.
He's not able to continue with his education. He's having trouble getting his bus pass and whatnot.
So you're saying you're saying when the fees get written off and as uncollectible, then does the student's account get released? You're asking if their account gets released when the fees get written off?
Perhaps.
Okay. If you could answer
So
that
when,
question.
when you say that you're going to write off a receivable, this is more of an accounting treatment. So you're going to write it off in your financial statements. That doesn't necessarily mean that in the student system that your fees are getting written off. Your still balance is going to be there. This is just an accounting treatment that writes it off in the financial statements. The district still has the ability to collect those fees in the future, and that's the reason why you do an allowance to see we possibly could collect these monies in the future, so the student account itself doesn't get written off. It's just an accounting treatment to say, you know what, we don't believe that they're going to be collectible, so we're going to write them off, but we can still use different agencies to collect the fees, or we can collect them ourselves. I hope that kind of cleared it up a little bit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The next item that we have on the agenda. Wait, that's an action item. We need a vote. We need a vote on the audit. So we call a question.
Call a question.
And we had a motion and a second to accept the item so that we could have the presentation. So now I will call for a roll call vote on action item, I believe it was 11.1. And that is annual district audit report presented by interim Vice Chancellor Williams. So all in favor of accepting item 11.1?
Aye.
She needs a roll call, so she's going to take us through it, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Weinstein?
I'm sorry, what are we accepting here or not?
So the process is that we've had a motion and a second, and the presentation and a discussion, and now, in order to vote on the action item, we have to do a roll call vote. So we're voting to accept the audit, or not.
Trustee Weinstein?
I accept the audit. I don't like it, but I accept it.
Is that a yes?
Oh, yeah, that's a.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan? Yes. Trustee Bonilla? Yes. Trustee Riley?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
The next item on the agenda is 11.2, consider acceptance of updated draft of facilities master plan. Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
I'll second that item.
So it's been moved and second. Do we have discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question, and we'll go for a roll call vote.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Trustee Riley?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
The next item on the agenda is item 6.5, the action item. We'll need a motion and a second to begin the conversation regarding this item. Item 6.5
So moved.
is
I'll
consider,
second it.
well, I've got to read it out loud first, guys. Consider approval of ICC agreement, which is independent contractor agreement with Chair and Cornu to support the support Peralta's outreach and representation to outside entities in the amount of $50,400. Presenter Chancellor Laguerre. Do we have a motion and a second to begin the discussion?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez, you're in.
In reading through this item, I'm trying to discern what the hourly rate is and exactly what are we trying to accomplish with this?
Chancellor, would you please give us some background on this item?
Yeah, this item, as you read both the scope of service and deliverables, you really have a pretty good idea of what we want to accomplish with it. We certainly have a lot of potential for partnerships in the community, whether it is with government, industries, businesses, and religious and what have you. We need some I need some additional support to make that happen. So that's why we are going to we want to engage Ms. Cornu in this endeavor.
And what's the hourly rate?
It's about 3 days a week, so about 24 hours a week is what we're going to get.
The billable hourly rate.
I don't have that to show right now.
Is this on a project basis or it's on a general flat fee basis?
It's on an ongoing basis. So we'll
Is the
if I
contractor
remember
paid by the hour, or is the contractor paid for the project, and at the end of 6 months, we're done?
It's about 3 days a week worth of work. That's what it is.
Let me restate this. Will the contractor be billing the district on an hourly basis, providing us with an invoice that says worked X number of hours at such and such a dollar? Or is it on a, I delivered this project and now the project is complete and so now pay me?
It is on a daily basis.
Okay, so it's an hourly rate, but we don't know what the hourly rate is.
We can, again, if you take the number of days in that's going to be between the time that we set it up to the end, that can give you that.
So this is somebody working 24 hours a week, roughly?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you, but Trustee Weinstein?
Thank you. I actually think there's great potential for this position because I do think that we need more outreach, particularly with labor, industry, and a number of different communities that really don't know what we're doing. So I'm happy about that. What I would like to see is a contract that's better written and putting the deliverables. I know you said it's clear on the deliverables, but it's not clear on the deliverables because I believe that the contractor is going to be doing more than just going to meetings. I'm sure she's going to be accomplishing more. So I wonder if we can put in things that are a little bit more specific than that.
Yeah, we do have a work plan that we certainly can share with you.
Could you do that?
On that? Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
And I'd like to actually speak to that as well. But previously, before we had our current chancellor, several of us trustees would be trying to go to meetings at the Port of Oakland to do development for industry development for our students. We also would try and go to BART and Kaiser, and we were going to doing recruitment and going to fairs, and it's something that we are doing out of our passion and we care about, but it's not very effective when there's not someone that can do that as a full-time or have that as their job effort, and then bring that issue back to the district and follow through. And with Sharon Cornu, that's someone that has been in the community for a long time, engaged in various things, including economic development, nonprofit housing, and someone that understands both the community-based organizations and the politics of our community. And I consider it quite an asset to have someone that has a proven track record of working well within the community to have productive results be part of Peralta, because we as trustees doing our full-time job and doing the trustee work as volunteers have a very difficult time and doing administrative work as well. So I consider it quite an asset to us to have someone to do that. Trustee Moore, I apologize, Trustee Moore.
Thank you. I just wanted to second the thoughts of Trustee Weinstein and Nikki, you and Gonzalez. It's disconcerting, the ambiguity, and also I was not impressed with the neutrality of the last presentation that we received. It was very alarming, in fact. So I would encourage the board to reconsider this at a later date with more guarantees and more accountability for our funds. Thank you.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen.
One other question about this. Was this the concept of bringing this particular contractor on? And I want to say that it's not about a particular contractor. It's about the position. So let me be really clear about that. Did it go through any shared governance process to consider where it fits into the overall educational planning and program of the district? No. Okay, thank you.
As I recall, and the trustees who have been on the board for a while can help me if I am not recalling correctly, but was there a position that was created several years ago for outreach that with our prior chancellor that had gone unfilled to do this work? Can you say, I'm sorry, what was that, Trustee?
Yeah, it was a problem before, until we were able to get someone. We definitely benefit from having someone connecting that. And as I say, Sharon has an impeccable background, we know, with union representation, which connections throughout the entire city. So it's beneficial. There's no point in hiring someone who doesn't have the type of connections to help to support us. We need someone who's going to hit the ground and move. Right now, we need the chancellor's focus to be more internal. We don't have Dr. Crawford anymore. We made great progress by having someone in that role, and I think it's important that we continue this.
Thank you. Trustee Hollis. Okay, and then we'll call the question. Thank you, Trustee Riley.
I just wanted to throw this out there that technically, say 24 hours per week, 4 weeks, 6 months, came out to roughly about $87.5 per hour.
Thank you very much for doing that math, Trustee Hollis. So
Good to have a mathematician in the house.
That's right.
If I may, one of the things that I will share with the board when we have conversation about the evaluation of the chancellor and what have you at our retreat is the fact that I will be concentrating a lot of my efforts internally, especially with the loss of our chief of staff. I want to work to make sure that the functions of the district, the fundamentals of the district office are really taken care of. So to do that, I need the extra support to help me with the outside engagements that I've had. So that will, and with the loss again of our chief of staff, this has become really necessary for me to look at this particular endeavor, so that we can, we will still be very much present in the community the way that I have been, but in a different way, perhaps even in a more targeted way to do that.
thank you very much, Chancellor. And now we'll call the question and go to a vote. All in favor of adopting item 6.5, consider approval of ICC agreement with Sharon Cornu to support Peralta's outreach and representation to outside entities in the amount of $50,400. We'll begin the roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
No.
Trustee Bonilla? Yes. Trustee Riley? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Next item that we have on the agenda is item 8.6, which is Consider approval of budget transfer number 116 to realign IT project funds in Measure A and Measure E. And the presenter is Interim Vice Chancellor Williams. We'll need a motion and a second to.
So moved.
Okay, did you get that, Brenda? Okay, so then is there any discussion on this item?
Yes, Madam President.
So we have Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn.
So I'm going to apologize in advance that I pulled all these items. I submitted questions to staff on Sunday, didn't get responses, and so I've got them here. Sorry, this is a small kind of technical thing. I just don't understand this. There's all these transfers going on here, but there isn't really a rationale for why we're doing this, and it's a lot of money, and I would have just been helpful if I'd understood what we were doing here. So if somebody, if the Chancellor can explain, why are all these transfers happening? What are we doing? Because I don't understand it, and I don't want to vote on something I don't understand.
Point of clarification, I believe that we have a process where the trustees, Riley and I call all the trustees prior to the board meeting to get the questions answered. And if you have a question, you could submit it through the board officers, and we'll get the answer and circulate it to all the trustees. So for your assistance in the future, if you would follow that process, we'd be able to help get that cleared up for you. Chancellor, if you
Point
could.
of order.
If you could, Chancellor, if you could answer the question.
If the chair would call on herself to make substantive comments and recognize herself in that process, I would greatly appreciate it. Seems like I'm asking questions and then being responded to by the president or other trustees, or making questions or making comments and then being responded to by the president. And I understand the president is here to keep order, keep time, keep us on pace, but if in fact we could be treated as a board of equals, I would appreciate that. And as point of information, I actually did submit these. I did speak with Trustee Riley in advance and just did not get back a response from staff. So thank you.
Point of information. Just for clarification, so Chancellor, did we get a response back to Trustee Yuan?
I did not receive, I responded to, after we talked, I sent an email to the trustee, let him know that there were 2 questions that I had received from him, and I responded to them, and that I didn't, unless he was talking about some other questions that he had submitted in November or December, I didn't receive those questions. And I did a search of my email and used the last email that I had received to respond to that.
Chancellor, why don't we discuss this after the meeting, and I will point out the very email that you sent back to me included the questions on each one of these items.
Trustee Gonzalez, if you have a question, we will try and get that answered for you. Point of order, Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn, I do ask you to maintain decorum, and we'll let the Chancellor answer the question.
Thank you.
Okay, these transfers are transfers for the IT projects, and we're simply moving them from one category to another. So they are really routine things that we've done in the past, and I think the explanations for each transfer is really expressed in the item that's submitted.
Trustee Withrow.
Just a brief comment. This document showing a budget-based transfer is a new document, a new format, and it's much appreciated. It shows the current budget. The revised budget is a function of the transfer, so that we can look at it in a sense of not knowing necessarily what it is, as Trustee Yoon was talking about, but we can see the significance of it, the percentage movement of it. It's a concern when the board approves a budget in September, and then we make a lot of transfers throughout the course of the year, knowing to what degree we've distorted the original budget. And using this format shows us, in this particular case, that the movements are very insignificant.
So I'll call the question, and Madam Clerk, would you like to begin the roll call?
Trustee Weinstein?
I guess, yes.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan?
I must say that I find the documentation underwhelming. No.
Trustee Bonilla? Trustee Riley? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
The next item on the action calendar is item 10.1, which is consider approval of Resolution 17/18-27, ratifying a construction agreement with Tricon Aquatics for the Laney College pool heaters upgrades. And the bid number 17-18/21, presenter Director Lynch McMahon. Do we have a?
So moved.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, so we can begin discussion. Do we have any discussion on this item?
Yes, again, this was one of the questions I submitted to staff, didn't get a response on. I'm wondering, why is this a ratification? Why wasn't this brought to the board in a timely manner? And did the chancellor already approve this work? I see that there was a bid process. It looked like it was concluded in December. Maybe this work needed to be done over the break, but then I'm asking, why wasn't the bid completed in time for our December meeting? I'm finding it quite uncomfortable to be approving contracts after the fact. So what happened in this process that we are now doing a ratification rather than a routine approval of a contract?
Yeah, Trustee, the district hired an architect called McIntad to be able to do drawings, engineering drawings, for us to do pool chlorination and also do commercial heating for the pool. We did that earlier on during the year. When we went out to bid, the cost of the total bid combination was over $4 million that we got from one single vendor. So because of that, we decided no, we were going to break these transactions up and do the pool chlorination that was mostly necessary, utilize the tepid commercial heaters that we had that were not adequate, and do this as a separate project. Because we broke this down,
that's good.
We got better pricing.
Thank you.
All right.
Do we have any further questions regarding item 10.1? Then I'll call the question, and Madam Clerk, if you can begin the roll call.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan? Trustee Bonilla? Trustee Riley? And Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
The next item on the action calendar is item 10.2. Consider approval of amendment number 1 for BHM Construction, Inc. in the amount of $71,833 on the Laney Leak Remediation Courtyard B project at Laney College. Presenter Director Lynch McMahon. Do we have a motion and a second to begin the discussion of this item? Madam Clerk, do you have that recorded? Are there any questions or comments regarding item 10.2?
I just have two comments. One is that the first thing that's indicated on this item is that it advances student access, equity, and success. And frankly, I just find that a meaningless throwaway phrase in the context of this item. I think we need to actually have more substantive explanations for why we do particular things. I mean, they all advance student success, and so having that in here sort of doesn't really help us very much. But my other substantive comment has to do with the attachments, and I don't know how many of my colleagues opened these attachments to try to understand what was this change order, why was it necessary. I could not understand these attachments in the least. We used to have a process where we had a narrative explanation of what the change order was, why it was necessary, who initiated it, et cetera, and that was entirely lacking in this. And so I had asked questions in advance, didn't get responses, and that's why I pulled this, but I'm ready to vote on it.
Trustee Gonzalez, when your comments were somewhat unclear as to whether or not you were asking a question, is there a question?
Nope.
Then, Madam Clerk, I'll call the question, unless there's anyone else that has a question. And since we have Director McMahon, as I understand from reading this item, do you want to just give us a brief?
I'd be happy to explain this if you all need an explanation.
Does anyone, if you could give us maybe a 30-second, everybody's okay?
Sure, so in the process.
Karen, do you
Oh,
need?
sorry.
Yeah, we have Trustee Weinstein would like one, so if you could give us like maybe a 1-minute summary of
Okay.
the item, that I would
On this
appreciate it.
particular item, this is regarded to the Laney Leaks litigation problem that we have on campus. So as we were doing the corrective work, as you know, when we do destructive investigation, the existing conditions, we, of course, don't know what's going to happen underneath the platform. So as we completed the work and moved through the courtyard, we found that the courtyard structurally was not level. So we had to come back in and actually provide leveling surface and also do a new control joint, which is the joint that is between the actual platform surface and the wall. So that entire joint originally was not in the original estimate for us to correct, but because we did find that it was incorrect, we went ahead and made the decision, if we're gonna fix it, we're gonna fix the whole thing at one time versus having to come back later and do more destructive work on the new work. So that is, in a nutshell, what this change order is just expanding the scope to make it acceptable so that the work is complete versus just a partial fix.
Right, thank you very much, Director McMahon. So, Madam Clerk, we'll begin the vote, the roll call vote.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Yes. Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan? Trustee Bonilla? Trustee Riley? And Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
And the next item on the agenda is item 10.3 for action item. Consider approval of Amendment 4 for Kone Elevator, Kone, for operational compliance of elevators in the amount of $87,219.72. And the director is, the presenter is Director Lynch McMahon. Do we have a motion and a second
Move
so that we
approval.
could begin the? Do we have that, Madam Clerk? Are there any questions regarding item 10.3?
Yes, Madam President.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan.
So this, again, it's a ratification, and in general, I don't like voting ratifications. And it looked, as I read this item, it looked as though quite a few of the items here were routine kinds of things that could have been scheduled, tests, et cetera. Was there something extraordinary about the timing of this one that required us to go ahead and do the work and then come to the board for ratification?
Yes, actually, there was. So the original contract that we have with Kone is a maintenance agreement. So as you know, our elevators are older. And so we have new regulations that came into play in August and September of last year. So as we completed our annual scheduled maintenance and our inspections, the inspector notified us that based on the new regulations, we were out of compliance based on what we originally were in compliance for. So with the notification of noted deficiencies, noted changes in the policy and and regulations, and then overall wear and tear, many of the devices were beyond the wear and tear of normal wear and tear that we usually anticipate. So through the process of going through, we discovered, hey, we have to do this right now because we were under the gun to fix them within a certain period of time. And if they were not at least started during our break period, they would not allow us to open the campuses again on Monday if we had not already started and executed a lot of this compliance work. And it falls in the area of fire, life, and safety. And so, of course, with everything we do, compliance is always first and foremost. And so the chancellor made the decision, go ahead and do it because we have to.
Great. Thank you for taking care of the business, and just, I'm speaking now for myself as a trustee. I don't like voting on ratifications rather than the pre-approval things. And so from my perspective, if in the description, why we're having to ratify things as opposed to having pre-approved them. If that can be included, that would answer my questions in advance.
I will definitely do my best to do that in the future. And also
Thank
on
you,
the
and
Kone
thank you for your
elevator,
service.
we're going to go ahead and, based on our things that we've had to do this year, emergencies that have come about, as we renew these service contracts, we're going to be looking at a holistic approach of trying to get all of the services bundled early and bid them all at one time so that we don't have to come back to you all and ask you for additional funds for things that we can include in the original scope of the contracts as they're developed. All
Thank
right.
you.
Anything
Thank you
else?
very much. I'll call the question. Madam Clerk, can you begin the roll call?
Trustee Weinstein. Trustee Handy. Trustee Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan. Trustee Bonilla. Trustee Riley.
Yes.
And Trustee Brown. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
That concludes our action items, and then we'll have, the next item on the agenda is announcements.
The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on February 27th at the district offices. The board welcomes our students back and wishes them a wonderful semester. The board wishes to extend their sympathy to the family, friends, and colleagues of longtime Peralta and PAL member Phyllis Jones and longtime College of Alameda biology teacher John Steiner, who passed away, and we adjourn the meeting in their memory. And we have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Madam President, this concludes the announcements for this evening.
This concludes our meeting is adjourned.